Part 199. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1985. Except for the foot covers, the other pieces are too big, and the metal cannot use that much super dense material, so the material does not have much defensive power, but it is still useful. Jia Yan tried his feet and moved his wings. It felt pretty good. Although it didn't feel as close to his body, it still increased his defense by about 20%. Especially the foot kit is very strong. If it is stabbed, it feels like it is still possible to assassinate the mid-level galaxy being just like that. I don't know if it happened that the battle here had such a harvest, otherwise there would be nothing so suitable for Jia Yan. Jia Yan has seen it, and even Black Sheep and the others don't have such good things. For a being like him, it would be good to get something that can enhance his strength by 10% or 20%, just like an artifact. Moreover, Jia Yan also thought that these things can be eaten when they mutate next time. Nutritional supplements. Very good. The remaining energy will be replaced by high-level energy. It will be enough for my short-term practice. It turns out that I gained so much from fighting a mid-level galaxy existence. Jia Yan thought, a little light appeared in his eyes. Well, Your Excellency Jia Yan, don't think about fighting them again. Don't think that if this battle went well, it will go well next time. After all, people didn't know your strength before, but now they know your strength. Next time you go out to fight, they will definitely not use such powerful mid-level galactic beings to fight you again. The galaxy intermediate who brought Jia Yan to exchange items was a little speechless when he saw Jia Yan's arrogance. Jia Yan was too combative. He had seen before that Jia Yan was not that high profile in the Zerg Queen's force. Even though he was famous, he did not participate in too many battles. He thought that he was not such a fighting maniac at all. Now at first glance, it doesn't look like this at all. I know, thank you. Jia Yan said some more words to the other party, which quickly brought the relationship between the two parties closer, and then they each returned to their residences on the battlefield. Jia Yan's residence, said to be a residence, actually does not even have a house, or in other words, it is just a position. If it is necessary to build a house for a mid-level galaxy being like him that is 20 or 30 kilometers away, the price will be too high. But Jia Yan doesn't care. At least this so-called residence has a twisted mist-like thing as the wall, and with various energy shields, the outside world usually has no idea what he is doing inside unless it is broken through with violence. Okay, now let me take a look at these things. In addition, I would like to recall that today is the first time I have taken action against the galaxy class in the central star field of the Milky Way. I also need to fully understand the differences. It will definitely be helpful to me in future battles. Jia Yan did not feel that if he dealt with a mid-level galaxy being, he would definitely have an understanding of the galaxy level in the central star field of the Milky Way. Until now, he has not understood the principles of the opponent's fighting moves. Although he used a strength far exceeding that of the opponent to crush him, if he changes to someone with similar strength next time, what he didn't understand was probably the key to Jia Yan's fatal death. Therefore, if it is not conquered, it will not be a good thing for Jia Yan. In this way, Jia Yan practiced and reviewed in the twisted place where he belonged. Within the opponent's starry sky, there was no movement at all in the position. It was probably because a new enemy like Jia Yan had made them a little anxious. Such a peaceful time has been silent for a long time. For the forces on the side of the Zerg Queen, such silence is actually a good thing. After all, they are outsiders and occupy the territory of this force. One more day will mean more taxes and benefits for a period of time, which is good for them. It is an extremely important thing. Moreover, even if the battle reaches a point where it is really no longer worth fighting, the Zerg Queen will definitely implement the Three Lights policy and bloody plunder the occupied areas. This is not their territory anyway, of course. Whether this is worth doing is because it will not turn their force into a rat that everyone shouts to beat in the central star field of the entire galaxy. Then we have to take a closer look at the actual situation. If it really becomes like that, they will definitely don't dare to do it. Time gradually passed, and the positions of both sides turned into an extremely peaceful scene. This was a rare period of time for the entire battlefield that had been fighting and the other side had been fighting, especially the Zerg Queen's side with the stellar and the venerable level creatures all seemed to be celebrating a festival, and many of the creatures who spent their days in tension couldn't help but smile. After all, every day on this battlefield, they will gain something and receive points and other things. They were thinking that it would be fine if this battle never happened. Unfortunately, this situation cannot continue forever. The dignified locals had their territory seized by outsiders and could not fight back for a long time. This meant that the enemy's forces did not need to be mixed up. Therefore, they must get back their territory as soon as possible. Even with a small victory, it is good to calm down the morale of the people on their side first. So, almost 10 days after Jia Yan's first battle, the enemy took action again. It is not enough time to call the stronger mid-level galactic beings from other stars behind to join the battle. The enemies coming this time are 3 intergalactic mid-level beings. The peak intergalactic interlevel being who is far beyond the ordinary intergalactic mid-level ones is vaguely exposed in the twisted position at the rear, and seems to be doing something. Watching the battle, if he makes a mistake, he may take action. These 3 galaxy intermediate beings all looked more solemn after the strip, because they heard the description and speculation about Jia Yan from the seriously injured intermediate galaxy being before, and then they also felt, if you deal with Jia Yan yourself, you may not be able to fight with him if you are really strong. But it's impossible not to fight, and they have other plans this time. Everyone from the Zerg Queen's forces, please come out. The enemy didn't say anything harsh this time, nor was he too provocative. After all, the Zerg Queen had an enemy worthy of their respect. Although this enemy could not possibly deal with their mid-level peak existence in the galaxy, generally speaking, they also need to have a little more respect for such beings. The Zerg Queen was used to the enemy using harsh words to tease them, causing them to get angry and go to war. But now when they heard the enemy say normal words like this, they felt unaccustomed to it. Jia Yan didn't have any habits, he just felt that the enemy valued his side more. He is doing his part. At least the last battle made him the strongest person in the forces here, and he is also the one who needs to lead others. The intergalactic being silently retreated to Jia Yan's side, stepping together with him and flying out of the power's position. When Jia Yan first appeared in the starry sky, the 3 mid-level galactic beings flew out from the enemy. Each one was a little stressed and stared at Jia Yan. As for the person behind Jia Yan, they didn't see much. Although I don't look down on him, after all, after fighting him so many times, everyone has a little understanding of that mid-level galaxy being. But for Jia Yan, he won so easily last time and no one saw many of his strengths. Naturally, he needs to take a closer look at this time. Your Excellency Jia Yan, we have to fight today. If we offend you later, please be patient. As soon as the other party started talking, he felt a little subdued. Jia Yan didn't have any unexpected thoughts. Many of his previous battles with others were like this. In fact, this is how it is in the universe. If you are strong enough, others will be polite to you. He nodded. The huge mosquito head nodded slightly, and then the pair of compound eyes flashed with cold light. It's easy to say, you guys, I need more attention from you, especially that adult. Please don't go to war. I won't agree to go to war. I, Jia Yan, will not do anything to fight. Jia Yan looked at the middle-level peak of the galaxy in the enemy's position and said a little playfully. After saying these words, the figure of the peak mid-level star of the galaxy, hidden in the battlefield, suddenly felt a little suffocated. He originally thought that if the battle came to a point where he had to take action, he would take action, but Jia Yan's words actually blocked him. Are you so timid? Watching this guy fight, he doesn't feel timid at all, he just feels a bit rogue. He was a little depressed, and his voice came from the position. Jia Yan, you don't have to use words to stop me from taking action. The rules are the rules. I won't take action. But don't even think about killing people. If you want to do that, I will take action. He was very angry. If Jia Yan's strength hadn't reached the peak of the mid-level galaxy like him, he might have had to fight him now. But Jia Yan doesn't have that kind of strength. He just bullies the small with the big, so he can only endure it. Thank you, Your Excellency. Jia Yan nodded seemingly respectfully, and then looked at the three mid-level galactic beings in front of him. You three, I wonder how you plan to fight today. Naturally, when the two sides fought before, they were not so reasonable. In the initial situation, it was almost a melee, which was completely unreasonable. Even the Queen of the Zerg once shamelessly killed dozens of stars in one breath. If it weren't for the enemy's domain master creature to take action quickly, maybe the Zerg Queen would have killed several galaxy-level beings by the way. But as the fight continued, neither side could accept the unreasonable fighting style. Therefore, there are many rules today. In other words, there are many wars in the universe that have rules. At least the strength of both sides under similar circumstances, rules are the best weapon to prevent the expansion of war. Today we are going to have a little melee. Your Excellency Jia Yan, your strength is probably stronger than any of the three of us, so today we are going to beat you 2-3, what do you think? Or we let the beginners of Zing fight a few games first, and then let us fight after they decide the winner. If either side loses more, we will give up the commercial star behind you. Among the other party's galaxy-level beings, one with a good tongue stepped forward to talk to Jia Yan. The commercial star he was referring to was actually not far behind Jia Yan's position. This planet was not big, about the same size as the Earth. If you insist on speaking, Jia Yan's position could cover countless areas. It's 1,000 kilometers in size, not much smaller than that planet. Don't underestimate such a small business star. Even after the Zerg Queen's hasty takeover and a large number of locals fleeing, it can still continuously produce a large amount of resources and supplies for the Zerg Queen's forces every day. Supplies. This shows how wealthy the central star field of the Milky Way is. The production and wealth of a commercial star can be compared with the production of large tracts of starry sky outside. This. Jia Yan didn't know what the authority of this position was, so he couldn't help but look back at the mid-level galaxy creature behind him. Seeing him nodding calmly, Jia Yan turned around and nodded as well. Okay, but what if you lose? Is it true that we are the only one who loses? If we have to give up the requirements of commercial star, do you have no leverage if you lose? Humph, we, the dignified people in the central star field of the Milky Way, are not country bumpkins like you who can't keep your word. If we lose, we will give you a commercial star behind us. In that formation, there was a cold snort from the being at the top of the middle level of galaxy. Haha, of course that's fine, but do we too treat you three? You keep your word, but you don't have any fair ideas. Jia Yan smiled slightly and retorted directly. You, Jia Yan, don't try to anger me. You can't bear the anger of a peak middle level being in the galaxy. The other party choked on his words and was almost so angry that Jia Yan came out to fight on his own. Oh? I'm not angry with you. I can't afford to offend Shiyuan, a middle-level peak existence in the galaxy. Well, since you want to fight like this, then let's fight. Jia Yan shrugged slightly and at the same time greeted the mid-level galaxy comrade behind him. You can deal with one person. Okay, but can you deal with two? Okay. The other party was still a little worried about Jia Yan. Last time, Jia Yan simply dealt with a galaxy mid-level, and his strength was definitely enough, but this does not mean that he has the strength to deal with 2 galaxy mid-levels. After all, they are all galaxy intermediates, and Jia Yan is still the kind of galaxy intermediate who has just been promoted. Although he has many trump cards and a certain amount of talent and strength, which is stronger than the average galaxy intermediate, this does not mean that he can deal with 2-bit. You must know that even an existence at the top of the intermediate galaxy may not be able to deal with the attacks of 2 intermediate galaxy beings. Jia Yan did not dare to fight the peak mid-level star from the galaxy, but he dared to face 2 ordinary mid-level powerhouses from the galaxy. This was a bit contradictory. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1986. Of course, the above-mentioned are the mid-level galactic powerhouses in the central star region of the Milky Way. If it were replaced by the mid-level galactic powerhouses from the outside world, they would be even more uneven. Those with weak points, Jia Yan now has a chance against 3 or 5 of them. Don't worry, I'm sure. After all, I'm a subspace talent. When it comes to 1 against many, I'm a professional. Just take care of yourself. Jia Yan smiled slightly, extremely confident. More than once, he faced the joint attacks of 2 galactic mid-level warriors. If he didn't even have this little bit of confidence, then he was a fool. Even if he is a mid-level star in the central star field of the Milky Way, he still feels that he has the kind of strength to face 2 at the same time. The mid-level comrade in the galaxy behind him thought for a moment and thought of the past few days when he and Jia Yan fought together. He suddenly smiled and stopped worrying so much. At least Jia Yan, a gifted being, could live for such a long time. He felt that if he was really stupid, he wouldn't be able to live for so long. The Zerg Queen and the 2 intergalactic mid-levels here agreed. Far from being overly happy, the enemy was actually a bit solemn. Because they have already thought about it, Jia Yan, the Zerg Queen galaxy intermediate whose specific strength is not yet known, must be extremely powerful, but they feel that he should think about it when facing 2 galaxy intermediates. When a strong man fights, he will definitely not do it casually, but will carefully observe his appearance. Just like now, they want to use Jia Yan to carefully observe his expression and expression between agreeing and not agreeing. Action, so that he can know his own confidence. It's just that until now, the information they have received is relatively bad. The simple agreement showed that this guy was very confident in his own strength. In other words, he did not use all his strength in the previous battle. Be careful, this Jia Yan is a bit evil and different from ordinary country people. The 2 galaxy intermediates walked towards Jia Yan together. The 2 mid-level galactic beings look like 2 creatures with different appearances, but they have been friends since they were very weak. As a result, they have practiced a joint fighting method together, and then they will become legendary. The 2 friends actually became intermediate galaxy together. The strength of such intergalactic middle orders joining forces is so terrifying that ordinary beings at the top of the intergalactic middle orders are not very willing to fight with them. And using it against Jia Yan is the opponent's trump card. The 2 mid-level galactic beings are not too complacent. After all, they are in the central star field of the Milky Way. The most important thing here is all kinds of geniuses. Even if the other party is a remote star field being from the countryside, he may be able to. The fact that he dared to come to the center of the Milky Way shows that Jia Yan's self-confidence must be something special. You 2 have learned a lesson. Jia Yan looked at the 2 galaxy intermediate beings calmly, and then looked at the other side. His comrade in arms and another galaxy intermediate enemy personnel ran to another place, obviously not wanting to the battlefields of both sides influence each other. After all, in such a melee, neither party has agreed on whether their own people can help each other. He is afraid that if the 2 people here take the time to do this to him, he will be in trouble. Jia Yan was also afraid of such a thing. Seeing that his comrade was so sensible, he smiled and said nothing more. Your Excellency Jia Yan, I often hear your name. We have been friends for a long time. Oh. Jia Yan was slightly startled when he heard that the other party had actually heard his name. But when he thought about it, he was right. The enemy should have gradually mastered his intelligence. On the Zerg Queen's side, not every powerful person's information is concealed from the outside, and it cannot be concealed, because the Zerg Queen has been recruiting local subordinates from the outside world. Under such circumstances, among those subordinates, it is not certain whether there are some people with ulterior motives. For the existence of the Zerg Queen's force, it is absolutely necessary to tell certain information about each strong person, otherwise others will be asked to join in with the origin and past. A force that you don't know about? This is absolutely impossible for others, so the powerful person's information will gradually leak out. Of course, generally speaking, it will not be too important information, such as the weaknesses of certain strong people, which will never be passed on. This will reduce the combat effectiveness of one's own forces. Unless there are two opposing strong men like Black Sheep and Jia Yan, who are basically incapable of dealing with each other, it is possible for them to deliberately pass on information to the enemy. You two know me well, but unfortunately, I still don't know you two. This is a bit disrespectful. I'm sorry. Jia Yan smiled slightly and apologized frankly. Your Excellency Jia Yan, this is not your problem. After all, you didn't know you were fighting us before. Besides, your forces naturally don't understand the strong ones on our side. How can outsiders know about us? What is the strength of the local strong men? Besides, the galaxy-level beings on our side are like the crucian carp crossing the river, at least 3 or 4 times more than you, but you still have to concentrate on dealing with the two major forces. With all due respect, Your Excellency Jia Yan, the future prospects of this force are bleak. An enemy, a mid-level star, launched an aggressive rhetorical inducement towards Jia Yan. Oh, we are all people who often fight. Needless to say, I will not be swayed by your moves like this. Jia Yan shook his head, feeling that the other party was looking down on him. He actually used words that made him shake his heart. This was too much looking down on him. From this point of view, we know that the other party does not have much information about him, and they did not even find out that he is a relatively determined person. Jia Yan's character has always been that he will never look back on things he believes in. He is as stubborn as a bull. Naturally, he will not be able to sway the two middle-level galaxies in front of him by just relying on words. The other party was obviously a little sorry. In fact, they also knew from the information about Jia Yan that Jia Yan should be a stubborn person. Their words should not be able to make him waver, which would weaken his combat effectiveness. But the one who spoke was still unwilling to give in. Sure enough, after giving it a try now, he was only disappointed. Well, Lord Jia Yan is laughing, so I won't say anything anymore and do it. Suddenly, after just 3 sentences, the other party suddenly made a move. For a strong person, taking action means actually taking action. Suddenly, 2 mid-level beings from the galaxy rushed in front of Jia Yan. Jia Yan condensed slightly. His giant mosquito eyes had already become extremely sharp through the mutations, but now the two shadows moved together, which was actually a bit dazzling. It's amazing, there are actually 2 people joining forces. Jia Yan suddenly became serious. With 1 galactic mid-level, he wouldn't have to worry too much, but if it were 2 galactic mid-levels joining forces, especially those with joint combat skills, then he would be in trouble. Just like the Onmyato joint combat skills he promoted in the Orion arm, better joint combat skills are far from the effect of 1 + 1 = 2. Generally speaking, if there are relatively good mid-level galactic beings, the effect of joining forces is very likely to be equal to 3. That is to say, if the 2 mid-level galaxies join forces, it will feel like facing 3 mid-level galaxies. Of course, we can't just make an analogy like this. It's just that it's very possible that some details and countermeasures are still very different. Die. Jia Yan was still solemn, but the opponent had already arrived in front of Jia Yan. The first one to arrive was one of the Galaxy Intermediate rankers, but the other Galaxy Grade Intermediate man was hiding behind him, keeping his eye on Jia Yan. This kind of joint fighting method seems to be attacking one by one, but in fact Jia Yan has to be distracted and doesn't even dare to move too much, otherwise he may not be able to stop the next attack. It's not me who's dead, it's you. Jia Yan sneered. Everyone knew he would not die in their fight, but since everyone was calling him dead, he couldn't lose in terms of momentum. Taking a step back, the first mid-level galaxy existence attacked Kong Kong in an instant. Obviously, the strength of a single mid-level galaxy being is not much stronger than that of the mid-level galaxy a few days ago. But no one was surprised that Jia Yan avoided the attack of this mid-level galaxy being. Jia Yan had such strength in the last battle. But then, the second attack came. Huh? From this angle, Jia Yan was slightly startled. Because he felt that there was another attack coming behind him. Haha, I know. The opponent's speed was so fast that Jia Yan was slightly startled, and then he understood after feeling the slight ripples in the subspace. This guy, like him, is a subdimensional talent. It had been a long time since he had encountered someone with the same subspace talent, and the other party was also at the mid-level of the galaxy. Jia Yan felt a bit like a hero cherishing his hero. It's a pity that the two sides are now enemies. Otherwise, they could sit down and have a good talk. Over the years, Jia Yan has hardly encountered any subspace talent that is close to his own strength. Last time when he was weak, I met one and was beaten to death by myself. Your Excellency's talent in subspace is quite good. Jia Yan smiled slightly, feeling the coming attack, and then he flashed for a moment and hid in the subspace. Buzz. But just as he was about to step into the subspace, he felt that the subspace in front of him was suddenly in chaos, and he almost couldn't enter. Don't even try to get in. The subdimensional being coming behind him laughed coldly. It turned out that he was still staring at the subspace when he attacked. When Jia Yan wanted to enter the subspace, he became cold and shouted. Suddenly, Jia Yanji entered the interior of the space. And the opponent's attack also fell into the air. But Jia Yan's entry into the subspace was a bit beyond his expectation. After all, it was much more difficult. If he had entered late, he would have been affected by the attack from behind. It's amazing. You can actually use your subspace talent to this extent. Not bad. Jia Yan felt that the opponent also had a subspace talent, but it was different from his own subspace talent. His subspace talent was mostly used to travel through the subspace with his body, and this subspace talent seemed to use his own. The main talent is used to control the subspace. This shows that no matter which talent they are in, every strong person has their own understanding, and each strong person has his own thoughts and analysis. Even if he has the same talent, his path will be completely different. But Jia Yan didn't disagree with the actions of the strong man behind him. It was because of his own fighting characteristics that he gradually evolved into the current fighting method based on subspace shuttle, while the opponent's subspace control was still very useful. Humph, have you entered all of this? It's just a dimension. It's causing me confusion. The subspace talent behind him saw Jia Yan entering within 1 degree of the subspace. He could attack again at any time and use his own subspace talent to control it. Jia Yan felt that the subspace around him was even more distorted. Haha, do you think your subspace talent must be better than mine? Jia Yan sneered. The other party's approach was like treating him, who was also a subspace talent, as someone with less talent than him. This made Jia Yan, a self-proclaimed subspace talent expert, feel uncomfortable. All of a sudden, he also released his control power. Buzz. Jia Yan's control power cannot be compared with that of his opponent, but his talent is still good after all. The brainwave power of both sides stirs up the subspace together. In an instant, the two sides are intertwined together, covering a large area of subspace. Become confused. But here he was fighting with the subspace talent coming from behind, and the enemy on the other side who joined forces to fight him had already arrived at Jia Yan's side. Obviously, because they are friends, this mid-level galaxy being is also very good at dealing with enemies in the subspace. In an instant, he was outside the subspace where Jia Yan was. In the normal space, the galaxy intermediate exploded with his own power in one breath. The attack is coming, it's really troublesome. Jia Yan finally met a subspace talent of the same level that was very similar to his own, but in such a hardy subspace battle, there was another existence standing around him, which made him feel a little unhappy. Get out of here. The other party with one blow, he used his ox-like feet to kick the subspace area where Jia Yan was. Jia Yan suddenly used his own feet to stab the opponent. Don't forget, Jia Yan's feet are wearing the foot gloves he got as a reward. The foot gloves enhance Jia Yan's attack power by about 20%, and sharpness is the key point. Puff. The feet collided fiercely with the opponent's hooves, and then in the confrontation of brainwave power, they suddenly penetrated the inside of the opponent's hooves. Base. The expression of the owner of the cow hoof suddenly changed. It's so sharp, my hooves, can't stop it. Retreat. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1987. The mid-level galaxy creature with hooves is actually not that bad, but he happens to be the type that Jia Yan is not too afraid of. This is like the incompatibility of attributes, and it is also the tragedy of strong creatures. Although strong is strong, under the suppression of levels, no matter how many incompatible attributes are, they will be crushed, but if the strength is not much different, it will be a bit depressing. I will restrain you. Even if a powerful person is weaker than you, he will definitely suppress you in an instant. Jia Yan was originally stronger than this hoof creature. Although he is now under siege, he has the talent of subspace and can neutralize their siege power to the greatest extent. Therefore, there is a clear division of labor between this subspace creature and that subspace creature. The existence is a bit unlucky, because his cooperation with the subspace existence is completely impossible. Puff. This mid-level hoofed creature from the galaxy was penetrated into the hoof by Jia Yan's metal-covered foot, and then his entire foot exploded. Heh, don't even want these feet. Explode. Jia Yan smiled slightly, and then, with a sparkle in his giant mosquito eyes, he gave a cold drink. The opponent's hoof seemed to have some kind of bomb, buried in the foot, exploding in an instant. Damn it! The hoofed creature knew something was wrong and quickly backed away. Just as Jia Yan was about to pursue him, he suddenly felt that there was a figure shooting towards him rapidly in the subspace behind him, almost close to him. Your subspace talent is indeed beyond my imagination, but the direction is different. I will do it, but you won't. The other party was not affected at all by his partner being seriously injured by Jia Yan's blow. He just used his subspace talent and suddenly broke into the front of Jia Yan's body. Buzz. When Jia Yan was about to attack him, the opponent turned around, and a distortion appeared out of thin air in the subspace, blocking his attack. And this twist made his backhand blow useless. Jia Yan was slightly startled. He has never seen such a method of utilizing subspace, and it can be said to be an eye-opener. His method of utilizing the subspace has always been to use his own talents to do small tricks like sinking into the subspace or moving quickly within the subspace. To be honest, if he didn't have such a good talent, it would be very difficult for him to use the subspace. The utilization rate is really very low. But the opponent, this subdimensional talent, is completely different. Fighting in subspace should be difficult for every subspace existence to encounter. After all, relatively speaking, there are not many such existences. But in this case, regardless of the strength of the talent, people who use it well can actually have extremely strong combat effectiveness to a certain extent. It's actually normal when you think about it. Although Jia Yan is very talented, his growth time is too short. It's not that he is any weaker than others in terms of combat skills, but that his overall time is too short. Others have hundreds of years. Of course, by thinking about fighting every day, you can develop many fighting skills. In addition, this is the place where the civilization of the strong is the most developed and the strong are all-encompassing in the entire galaxy. This enemy has not encountered many times in the same space. He is naturally talented, but it is obvious that he must be much more talented than Jia Yan. After communication, his skills in utilizing subspace talents are much better than Jia Yan's, so it is normal. Haha, strong talent cannot be regarded as strength. It is said that you can enter the 8th or 9th dimension, or even enter the 10th dimension with the help of machines, right? It's quite enviable. I can only enter the 7th dimension. Dimensional space, but as long as you don't enter the 10th dimension, I will have a way to kill you. The opponent, who was gifted in the subspace, actually started talking nonsense to Jia Yan in the subspace because Jia Yan couldn't damage him with one blow. Oh! Your Excellency, you are too confident. Jia Yan looked around the subspace. In fact, he had already arranged some explosive rocks with positive and negative forces in this area, but now, he was a little afraid that the enemy would take advantage of them or discover them. Those little meteorites? I've known about it for a long time. Although I don't know what you do by putting such things in the subspace, it must be just to knock them out and hit people. Such a little trick can actually reach this level of strength. I am still using it. I feel really sad for you. How weak is the culture of strong people outside? The existence of subspace talent used words to shake Jia Yan. But he was absolutely right. Jia Yan's use of subspace was almost the same as that of a child. But Jia Yan was not depressed or anything, because he knew that the other party was a joke, but his expression was still nervous, which showed that people were still very wary of him, that is, they valued him very much. Regardless of whether he is a countryman, ignorant, or ridiculed by them, Jia Yan's strength is strong. The mid-level galaxy being who injured them before is simple. In this universe, strength is everything, no matter how rural he is. If a person has invincible strength, anyone who sees this prosperous center of the star field will still bow to him. What's more, apart from guessing that Jia Yan wanted to use those meteorites to hit him, the other party had no idea that Jia Yan's seemingly weak and simple method had another thing that he didn't understand at all. That is, this meteorite is not used to hit people, but to explode. If it explodes, not to mention the middle-level galaxy in front of us, even the peak of the middle-level galaxy on one side may not be safe. But Jia Yan won't explain anything. Since the other party wants to ridicule, let him ridicule. It is a brainless act to tell him his trump card. Jia Yan sneered, and then he moved his body directly. Want to enter the second dimension to fight with me? That's okay. The galaxy intermediate being saw Jia Yan entering the second dimension. He said hello to the galaxy intermediate partner from outside who had an injured hoof, and then followed him into the subspace. He really didn't have the idea of fighting Jia Yan alone. Although he fought for a while, he gradually felt that the opponent's subspace talent was nothing more than this. If he tried his best alone, there should be a way to deal with Jia Yan. Damn it, but we had already agreed at the beginning to join forces to fight him. If you have an advantage, you would be a fool not to use it. Buzz. Jia Yan looked at the subspace creature behind him coldly as he walked along the way. After entering the second dimension, Jia Yan still did not stop and kept moving forward. Huh? 3 times. That's okay too. The subdimensional being behind him watched Jia Yan enter the third subspace again, and continued to follow without any concern. The way he moved forward made Jia Yan amazed. This guy was flying all the way, with distortions behind him all the way to help him move forward. Jia Yan, on his side, used his own talents to break through the distortions in the subspace, but the other party had already mastered the use of the subspace. Flying in subspace didn't take much effort. Jia Yan really learned a lot. Unfortunately, a lack of talent means a lack of talent. When Jia Yan flew past the 3rd degree and continued to advance towards the 4th degree, the expression of the subspace talented creature changed slightly. He snorted coldly and continued to follow Jia Yan in. It seems that Jia Yan is still flying with so much power, because for him, there is almost no difference between 3 and 4 degrees, but the middle-level galaxy being behind him is far different. When he was in the 3rd dimension, he spent almost no effort, but when he reached the 4th dimension, it was difficult to use the distortion of the subspace itself to do anything. The effort expended is about the same as that of Jia Yan. And as the depth of the 4-dimensional subspace gradually entered deeper and deeper, his level of energy consumption gradually surpassed Jia Yan. Why didn't you attack that guy outside? He knew that if he was attracted by Jia Yan and followed him to the deep subspace, then he would be in danger. In terms of talent, he really didn't think he could compare with Jia Yan. He has been entangled with Jia Yan, just to delay some time, so that the partner behind him can quickly stabilize his injury, and then join the ranks of attacking Jia Yan. Although it is at a relatively medium depth in subspace, for galaxy-level beings, it is basically easy for them to attack to a depth of 3 or 4 degrees. Of course, if it reaches a very deep depth, such as 7 or 8 degrees, the attack power will be weakened too much. Has no effect at all. At least not yet, so he was waiting for his partner to attack Jia Yan. Haha, his following speed is much slower, I knew it. Jia Yan looked back and saw that the followers behind him were moving very hard. Let's not fight for now and let's see how your subspace talent is. I have never encountered a galaxy-level subspace talent. Now I'm a little happy and offended. Jia Yan laughed and explained to the galaxy intermediate behind him. The other party really wants to say, is it okay if I don't follow? But the battle was fought, and they were still the ones who started the fight. They couldn't do it without fighting. The few moves that the 2 galaxy-level fighters used just now were actually their most proud tactics. Moreover, they had also thought about it. Even if the initial joint effort was not smooth against Jia Yan, they had been working together for too many years. If you fight for a while longer, you will definitely be able to find a way to deal with Jia Yan. But Jia Yan's chicken thief is here. After fighting a few moves with the opponent just now, he began to retreat into the subspace. Although there is a subspace talent this time, at first glance, it seems that Jia Yan will suffer a loss, because he was able to win so many battles by using the subspace talent. But in fact, in this battlefield, he naturally thought of a way to separate the 2 enemies. Even this idea, he didn't think much about it, and just used the method of separating the 2 enemies. This is actually a bit bitter, because Jia Yan has always been besieged by the enemy. From the time he was weak, he has always faced one person against a group of people, which made many of his war thoughts become almost natural. Think about dealing with group battles. In short, as the depth becomes deeper and deeper, Jia Yan becomes more and more confident. The fool behind him didn't know how to attack me and make me stop just now. He really thought that this was not a life and death battle, so what principles should be followed? If it were me, no matter what principles and demeanor you have, how could you win? How come? Just don't kill him. Jia Yan almost felt a little stupid towards the guy behind him. But he doesn't know that this is not because he is stupid. After all, in the central star field of the Milky Way, there are many more galaxy-level people. The number of battles they have fought is many times more than all the battles of Jiayan. Why? Do you know the authentic rules of life and death battle? It's just that life and death battles are life and death battles. In reality, undead battles are different from life and death battles. Fighting methods that do not pay attention to rules will definitely gradually evolve into life and death battles. This is a matter of degree of control. Jia Yan experienced such a battle. If he plays less, he will think so. In the future, if he plays more, he will definitely figure it out. Fortunately, he is not breaking the rules now. Others can join forces, but he can't think of a way to separate and break other people's joint efforts. There is no such reason in the world, right? At this moment, outside the subspace, the person whose hoof was suddenly penetrated by Jia Yan, and then activated the power of Yin and Yang Dao, and the whole foot was exploded, was not that he did not want to cooperate with his teammates to attack Jia Yan, but that he was confused. Hit, a bit too injured. Then Jia Yan, what kind of energy did he use? If we all use the cultivation system of the strong man in the universe, his power should not be much higher than mine. Then why is the brainwave power in his body so powerful? Will it explode? This middle-level being in the galaxy is a bit confused. His whole body still feels a little numb. He wants to chase the subspace, attack inside, and to cooperate with his teammates, but his body can't move for a while. Jia Yan's Yin-Yang Dao showed its astonishing abilities for the first time in the central star field of the Milky Way. For the strong men of the universe, especially the absolutely orthodox cultivation method of the strong man of the universe, which occupies the main cultivation method in the central star field of the Milky Way, they are very unfamiliar with an alien cultivation method and foreign terrifying power. Yes, no one has even thought that there are other cultivation methods, and even this cultivation method can be practiced to the level of the galaxy. This is the problem of limited eyes. The more developed a place is, the more its vision is limited by its predecessors. Each of these galaxy-level beings definitely has their own talents, their own opinions on energy, and cultivation, but here, they absolutely cannot rise to the level of even the slightest thought of improving the combat cultivation method, because everyone practices like this. If they practice other cultivation methods, or create their own, they are basically asking for trouble. Therefore, for the strong people here, they will be shocked for a long time when they encounter other cultivation methods or even some weird energy. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1988. The middle-level galaxy beings in the outside world were blown up by the explosive power of Jia Yan's Yin and Yang Dao on his feet and were unable to move for a long time. This left the person who was chasing Jia Yan in the subspace without any backup. It's already 6 degrees. The subspace talent chasing behind Jia Yan kept chasing until he reached the 6th dimension. His entire figure had already slowed down. Jia Yan in front of him became as powerful as a knight, feeling as if he was in this space and not affected by anything. This is the talent gap. As long as a countryman has enough talent, even I can't catch up with him in the subspace. Judging from his understanding and control of the subspace, he is basically a layman. I still can't catch up. This is the talent gap. That subspace talent is almost autistic behind Jia Yan's back. He thinks that his subspace methods are much stronger than Jia Yan's, but Jia Yan's talent in subspace is innate. Especially the deeper into the subspace, the harder it is for him to make up for it with skills and abilities. The gap above. Hoo-hoo. Jia Yan was flying in front of the subspace, clearing the way. In fact, he also slowed down, but compared with the opponent's slowdown, it was much better. The guy at the back doesn't have subdimensional talent, but his skills are really good. When he reached the 6th dimension of subspace, I didn't let him down too much. Jia Yan felt the subspace talented enemy behind him and couldn't help but sigh. He didn't have too many hands left. Except for not using the propulsion ability of the Edisha, he had already used all his strength and used a lot of strength to move forward quickly, but he still couldn't use the space talent this time. Intermediate existences in the galaxy, how many can you pull down? This shows that even if his subspace talent is not good, his skills are far superior to Jia Yan's. Okay, now I roughly know how powerful this subspace talent is, and I also know what his combat effectiveness is like inside the subspace. Jia Yan felt that when he was approaching the 7th dimension, he stopped. It's not that he can't get in, but that the enemy has begun to waver. If he continues to enter the 7th dimension, the opponent will probably stop chasing him. Then Jia Yan's deliberate strategy of separating the enemy will be ineffective. Buzz. Jia Yan stepped deep into the subspace, and then he turned back with a ferocious look on his face. Huh? You didn't run away. Do you think you can attack me here? The subdimensional talent saw that Jia Yan did not run away, but flew back in one breath. He looked at himself with a very ferocious expression, and he immediately knew that Jia Yan probably wanted to attack him. Hey, Your Excellency, you have been chasing me for so long, do you think I have no temper? Now that you are here, your partners can't help, and your subspace talent is weaker than mine. Don't you think it's me who teaches you a lesson now? Is it the best time? Jia Yan sneered, and then rushed to the existence of this subspace talent. He didn't even think about talking to the other party, and he didn't even think about talking to the other party. Before, they didn't talk to each other, but they directly attacked him. He just treated the other person in the same way. Haha, Sir Jia Yan, do you want to teach me a lesson? Well, come and give it a try. The 6th-dimensional subspace, although I don't have your subspace talent, I'm not afraid of you here. The subspace talent snorted with a completely unyielding voice and was ready to counterattack. As for my partner, you said you can't help me, so you can't help me? Haha, you are not the only one with subspace talents that we have fought together. The other party was very disdainful of what Jia Yan said that his partners could not help, because they had previously fought against subspace talents like Jia Yan. You must know that in the central star field of the Milky Way, even subspace talents the existence is not too difficult to see. They have fought before, so it is nothing. Boom. Jia Yan didn't even say much to him. He spoke directly with strength and stabbed his chest with one foot. Naturally, this subspace talent would not be willing to be injured by Jia Yan in one breath. He quickly raised his foot and collided hard with Jia Yan's foot. To be honest, the appearance of the two parties is somewhat similar, because the other party also has the same insect feeling, and is even somewhat similar to Jia Yan, with long breath and feet. At first glance, I thought they were the same mother. Raw. Of course, Jia Yan's mother didn't know that she would give birth to such a son. Especially the Mosquito mother, if she were still alive now, she would probably be shocked. Of course, it is absolutely impossible for the mother of the Mosquito to survive. After all, Jia Yan knew that he was a little Mosquito reborn, and the mother of the Mosquito should have died long ago. But now is the time to fight, so we can't think so much. Anyway, Jia Yan missed a single blow, so he wasn't shocked or surprised. He would only be shocked if a mid-level galaxy being couldn't even receive a single blow from him. Moreover, the mid-level galaxies in the central star field of the Milky Way, just as Jia Yan imagined, are almost much stronger than the strong ones of the same level outside. Each of them has many serious paths, following the ancients. There is nothing wrong with the cultivation direction, and they have been cultivating to an extremely strong level, so their foundation, fighting instincts, etc. will be much stronger than those of the strong people outside. Just like Jia Yan stabbing this time, if it had been a mid-level galaxy being with the same sense of energy from the outside world, he would have been seriously injured and dying by Jia Yan's stabbing. But this time the opponent's space talent existed, but he was completely uninjured, and even almost wanted to fight back. Well done, this guy is really good. Jia Yan was slightly stunned. However, he quickly realized that in the attack and defense just now, the opponent also used his subspace talent. When he attacked just now, the opponent's reaction was not fast enough, so he used the power of subspace distortion to cause the distortion to attach to his feet, and then gave the feet additional external power as support. Make him faster so that he can block Jia Yan's blow. It's amazing. Subspace talent can actually be used to this extent. I'm so ignorant. Jia Yan blushed a little because his subspace talent made him look like a very primitive man compared to his opponent. If this middle-level subspace talent in the galaxy hadn't shown his subspace talent in front of Jia Yan like this, Jia Yan might not have known how many years it would have taken for him to know that subspace talent could be used in this way. Very good, I learned it, and I will definitely study it in the future. Jia Yan smiled slightly, feeling that this battle was still necessary. Although the opponent's subspace talent existed, judging from his face, he knew what Jia Yan had secretly learned, but he didn't care. Even if he doesn't talk about Jia Yan's talent, it won't take long for him to realize it himself. The point is that in the central star field of the Milky Way, it is easy to find books or records about any talent. Jia Yan did a little online search. There may be many schools of subspace talent learning books and the like. Even if the vast majority of book authors are not as powerful as Jia Yan, after all, they grew up in the central star field of the Milky Way, and have a system of knowledge and knowledge. Sex can easily give Jia Yan a lot of inspiration and learn authentic knowledge. So he didn't feel that this was teaching the enemy. Jia Yan, since you have learned something from me, give me some face and let me hit you. This is not okay. While the two sides were talking, there was another collision in an instant. Jia Yan felt that this enemy was indeed far inferior to him in terms of strength. But when he collided, he avoided the most important point and took advantage of the twisted control power of the subspace talent to twist himself slightly to the side and avoid the sharpest point of Jia Yan's foot. But even so, he was still hit by Jia Yan, stabbing him in the side of the abdomen. The blood was flowing out. Of course, for a galaxy-level being, this was not considered a serious injury at all. Awesome. Although his space talent is not high this time, his control of subspace is better than mine. Jia Yan directly acknowledged the opponent's strength. Your Excellency Jia Yan, you are the most powerful one. It's a pity that we have so few subspace talents, but we still have to fight. It's a shame to bear such a burden. No, you and I are not on the same journey. Let's fight first. Jia Yan didn't want to argue with the enemy anymore, because he felt that another intergalactic existence outside the subspace had already begun to take action. That mid-level creature from the galaxy, Jia Yan knew that he had used his yin and yang Dao talent to break his hoof with one blow. It was a serious injury. It would take at least many years of cultivation before it could grow back. It will take longer for the hardness and combat effectiveness of the hoof to return to its original level. But that guy, after cultivating in the outside world for a while, quickly started activities outside the normal space again. Are you ready to take aim? Haha, this subspace here exists just to cover him. It seems that these two guys have cooperated many times and are extremely skilled. Jia Yan smiled slightly, and then, without caring so much, he just stepped back. Subdimensional existence, slightly startled, looked at Jia Yan, then looked at the outside world. A trace of doubt and solemnity flashed through. He had just heard his partner from the outside transmitting his brainwave power, saying that he would carry out the first attack at this moment to see if it could be effective in one blow. But before he finished speaking, Jia Yan took the first step and avoided the subspace area where the opponent wanted to attack. Yes, Jia Yan has roughly calculated that the opponent is going to attack him. Although he couldn't hear the brainwave power conversation between two mid-level beings in the galaxy. But he can judge. Jia Yan judged that the opponent should attack him at this moment, so he left the place instantly. What a coincidence is that, just outside the range of this empty space, the galaxy intermediate who is preparing to attack is actually preparing to attack as Jia Yan expected. His other uninjured hoof had been preparing the brainwave power for a while, intending to blast into the subspace in one breath. As a mid-level galaxy being, even if he is not a strong person with subspace talent, his strength can still ensure that his attack power covers 6 degrees of subspace, or even more. So within that 6-dimensional area, if he attacks with all his strength and hits Jia Yan with one blow, although the power of the attack will be exhausted due to the layers of subspace, there won't be much left at the 6th degree. But that was definitely enough to make a strong person of the same level unable to move temporarily. If he couldn't move, even this time would only last less than a second, but this was an extremely important thing for the subspace talent next to Jia Yan. He could take advantage of the opportunity and beat Jia Yan seriously in one breath. You must know that 1 second can already determine life and death for strong men like them. It can even determine the life and death of another person of the same level several times. In short, the two men's idea of attacking inside and outside was actually resolved by Jia Yan at this moment. I don't believe it. He must be deceived. The subspace talent avoided the blow to Jia Yan, and felt that it was not Jia Yan's initiative at all. Because he was fighting Jia Yan, he felt that even if Jia Yan was stronger than him, he was very skilled in subspace, and it was impossible not to give his best if he was stronger than him. It is even less possible to have time to go and observe another partner in the outside world. This may be fatal to a strong person. So he felt that Jia Yan's step should be due to luck. But, is Jia Yan really just lucky? This is not the case. He truly felt that there was an intermediary being from the outside world who was aiming to attack him. If the enemy doesn't want to believe it, there's nothing he can do. Besides, Jia Yan really didn't want to say it, he didn't use all his strength at all. Yes, even though Jia Yan was also using his full strength and speed against the enemy in front of him, he really didn't use his full strength. Because the most important trump card is the power of yin and yang Dao brainwaves, even if he doesn't use it even when die. The enemy suddenly attacked Jia Yan with all his strength again. This speed is much faster than the previous blow. At the same time, the direction from which he attacked happened to block Jia Yan's view of the outside world. This is another trap. Haha, here comes another move. Is this what you call cooperation? I'm really disappointed. Jia Yan laughed. He shook his head, and then avoided the attack. Then, he felt that in the normal space outside, the middle-level galaxy being who had been waiting for a long time seemed to have finally waited for the opportunity. He was suddenly overjoyed and let his attack go. Freed. Haha, Jia Yan, die. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1989. So I told you, no one will die in our battle. Will you applaud me for being so deadly? Jia Yan sneered, feeling that the other party's IQ was just that. At the same time, the attack from the outside galaxy's mid-level creatures came behind him. The strength of a mid-level galaxy being is really extremely powerful. Even if he is in the 6th dimension, the opponent's attack power can still hit him directly, and the speed is as fast as the limit. After all, attacking is different from entering the subspace. When the body enters the subspace, what is needed is to resist the pressure from the outside world. But attacking is different. It is just an attack, as if waving your fist and squeezing your body into a small place. The feeling is completely different. It came so fast. As soon as Jia Yan responded, he instantly felt that the attack in front of him was at his side almost instantly. In fact, just now, these two mid-level galactic beings were already cooperating, and even Jia Yan was a little bit fooled. He knew that the galaxy intermediate in the outside world would never give up the fight so easily even if he was injured, So he was always on guard. As for the Galaxy Intermediate who was fighting with him in front of him, he kept dragging him with his subspace talent. It was clear that he couldn't beat him, but he didn't leave. He also knew that the other party must want to cooperate with the Galaxy Intermediate from the outside world. But the only thing he didn't know was that these two guys had actually concealed the truth just now, allowing the outside Galaxy Intermediate to gain a huge amount of time to prepare for the attack. Jia Yan was already on guard, but he was prepared 3 seconds earlier. Don't underestimate these 3 seconds. By the time Jia Yan feels his attack, the attack will reach him. Retreat. After Jia Yan was slightly startled in his heart, he stopped caring so much and stepped back directly. Where to escape? And that interdimensional galaxy mid-level being with subspace talent suddenly flew towards Jia Yan within a second. His purpose was not to hurt Jia Yan, but to make the attacking brainwave power of the mid-level galaxy behind him capable of causing harm to Jia Yan. Yes, he was dragging Jia Yan. Humph, don't think that I'm afraid of you. Jia Yan was a little angry. He was fighting with this Galaxy Intermediate. Seeing that he was a subspace talent, he wanted to observe him more, so he kept avoiding him. Didn't show his true strength. Now, the anger is rising. Buzz. Puff. Regardless of concealment, Jia Yan used all the power of his yin and yang Dao brainwaves. Just now, I only used positive energy, and the counter energy was useless. I was caught off guard by the right method. Now I used both positive and negative energy, which directly caused the opponent to suddenly feel an extremely shocking power. What? How is it possible that you are still hiding your strength? This mid-level galaxy being with subspace talent quickly turned his attack into defense. He was stabbed by Jia Yan's foot, causing him to fly backwards. This attack, with positive and negative explosive power, directly attacked him from in front of Jia Yan to far behind. No wonder Obi was seriously injured just now. It turns out he has such strength. The other party was completely stunned. He felt that Jia Yan was indeed much scarier than he imagined. Jia Yan's strength is that he is a subspace talent who has reached the middle level of the galaxy. This news was known before. As for the terrifying power displayed now, it seems to have a weird explosive property. To him, it's something I don't understand at all. He was still sarcastic in his heart just now that his famous Obi partner couldn't even completely avoid Jia Yan's blow. But now that he saw it, he completely understood that this Jia Yan was a person who had endless methods and was completely described by common sense. Damn it, both the subspace talent and this power seem to be extremely powerful, but I can see that his mastery of these two powers is not at the top level. Is this talent? Originally, no one in the galaxy level talked about things like talent anymore. After all, those who could reach the galaxy level had almost no talent. That was too bad. But at this moment, this middle level being in the galaxy is really speechless about Jia Yan's talent. He believed that Jia Yan's yin and yang Dao was actually one of his innate powers. But in fact, he didn't know that yin and yang Dao was a new cultivation system that Jia Yan had invented after going through a lot of hardships and almost dying. Although it was right to call it a talent, after all, in his body, there are positive and negative forces, but in more aspects, it should be said that it is his efforts. As for the existence of this subspace talent, Jia Yan, who is talking about it, is not proficient in mastering the power of subspace or yin and yang Dao. This is easy to understand. First of all, Jia Yan's annual record is too young. Without the accumulation of years, how could he have it? What pure fighting skills! The second point is, where is he from? Orion Arm. It is already extremely unbelievable that a galaxy-level person like him can appear in a remote place like Orion Arm. Who else does Jia Yan want to communicate with him? That's wishful thinking. So he doesn't have that many skills, so he figures everything out by himself, which is natural. But this is exactly the reason why he came to the central star field of the Milky Way. Who? Without the harassment from the existence of subspace talents, he faced the brainwave power tracking from behind, and the possibility of chasing him was instantly gone. In an instant, the opponent's attack was directly dodged by Jia Yan. Hey, these two guys are still playing tricks on me. Jia Yan smiled slightly, and then showed off his subspace talent again. Within a second, his speed changed from extremely dynamic to extremely still. At this moment, he no longer concealed his yin-yang Dao strength, but completely exploded. Jia Yan probably knew the details of the subdimensional being just now. The combat effectiveness of the two sides is almost more than doubled. Of course, this is when Jia Yan uses his yin and yang Dao. If he does not use it, the situation will be like what was shown before. He will not be able to suppress the opponent quickly. Kill. Now that he roughly understood the opponent's fighting power, Jia Yan began to show his strength. Anyway, the opponent didn't have much to learn from him, so if he didn't win the battle neatly, he would feel sorry for himself. Puff. Jia Yan exploded his subspace talent, and coupled with the burst of brainwave power, his speed directly increased to an astonishing level. Suddenly, this attack became something that even Jia Yan himself was not used to. Because the pretense just now was too similar. And actually, I am not very familiar with the fighting power at this moment. I didn't fight too hard last time, so this time I have a little more strength. Jia Yan silently thought about combat effectiveness, and then flew toward the space-talented creature in front of him. This guy was knocked away by the yin-yang Dao power of Jia Yan's blow, and he suddenly felt like his soul was flying out of nowhere. Because Jia Yan's blow just now was too terrifying. It seems that we can't confront him head-on. Let's play a delaying game. This guy was quite capable of fighting, and he immediately thought of the right plan to deal with Jia Yan. He suddenly dodged Jia Yan's attack from one side, and then tried to avoid Jia Yan's next attack, using his subspace distortion skills to make Jia Yan's attack ineffective. Do you still think that I really can't attack you? You have this skill, but I just didn't want to use yin and yang just now. Now I use yin and yang, just wait. Jia Yan laughed, and then, the opponent used his skills to leave Jia Yan's sight, and he directly exploded with the positive and negative power of yin and yang Dao. Boom. Suddenly, Jia Yan's speed became much faster. How come? The escaped subspace gifted creature's eyes almost popped out. But then, he didn't care so much, and went all out like flying, using his subspace skills, trying to escape Jia Yan's pursuit as much as possible. Jia Yan is using the explosive power of his yin and yang Dao to make himself faster. Since there is a lack of skills, use other strengths to make up for it. Puff. The opponent's straight line speed is not as fast as his, but his turning flexibility exceeds Jia Yan's. Ever since, he directly avoided Jia Yan again. In the subspace, the strength existing in this subspace is really more enhanced than Jia Yan's. If he were in the outside world, Jia Yan would be confident that he could defeat him with one blow, but if he was placed in the subspace, there would be nothing he could do. But even if you use subspace skills to make it difficult for me to hit you, just hiding is not the right way to fight. Jia Yan's eyes flashed with an extremely sharp and strange light. Outside the subspace, the creature whose hoof was hit by Jia Yan's attack was also solemn at this time. It was such a fierce battle. I thought we won after that guy was attracted to the subspace. I didn't expect that he had such terrifying strength. These two mid-level galactic beings will accept this mission to fight Jia Yan. In fact, they see that Jia Yan is a subdimensional talent, and the two of them have good fighting capabilities, so they think they will definitely not lose. But I didn't expect that in a real fight, it would end like this. He is starting to fall into danger, and I need to give him some help from the outside world. This creature can be considered a good candidate for a good friend, because the subspace talent inside was extremely miserably chased by Jia Yan, so he began to use his injured body in severe pain to continue to help his friend out of the siege. Action. He flew to the outer layer of the subspace where Jia Yan and the subspace gifted creature entered together. Because there were two subspaces inside, moving a little would mean moving a lot to the normal outside space, so he couldn't catch up. Superior. Fortunately, the subspace talented creature inside knew that his friends from the outside would come to help, so he deliberately kept going in circles with Jia Yan in the same place. Only then did the one outside catch up. Hurt me. Inside the subspace, Jia Yan was also a little depressed. This guy can really run. I feel like I'm getting a little tired from chasing. After all, this was the first time that Jia Yan was chasing someone in the subspace. He has always been the exclusive patent of one person in the subspace, and the way he moves is what he is used to. But looking at it now, it's a bit uncomfortable. He actually couldn't catch up with another existence of the same level with subspace talent. This is actually a kind of stimulation for Jia Yan, because he has never thought that subspace talent needs to be cultivated, it only needs to be fast enough. But now when he started fighting, he found that this was really his shortcoming. Because the person who came was a subspace talent who was weaker than him. What if he was replaced by someone stronger than him? That's it. There are subspace talents who are stronger than him. It can be said that they can directly cause greater damage to him in the subspace. After all, their combat power is stronger than yours in the outside world. When they arrive in the subspace, they are almost useless to Jia Yan. People who practice subdimensional skills will probably die more miserably. Jia Yan, don't push yourself too hard. We never thought about winning against you, but can you give us some face? The opponent's subspace talented creature shouted directly to Jia Yan. To give you face. Jia Yan was startled for a moment, then sneered again. He knew that this was because the other party felt that the battle could not be won, so he said this. If you know you can't win, why bother fighting? What's wrong with Zai Huang? You were so confident before. Who is that? When it comes to a business star, Jia Yan doesn't dare to lose. It's great that face is so valuable. Jia Yan ignored him and continued to attack. Boom. In the subspace, a large area of distortion was instantly destroyed by Jia Yan. Puff. The subspace talented creature spurted out a mouthful of blood and flew out with an extremely sinister look on his face. Hey, if you feel like you want to save some face, you might as well admit defeat now, or you'll lose face even more later. While Jia Yan was speaking, he avoided a silent attack from behind. This is a sneak attack by the creature with hooves from the outside world. He cannot enter the 6 or 7-dimensional subspace, but he can attack it. The enemy is already a little desperate. Because Jia Yan's fighting power was beyond their imagination. However, you will have to lose a business star if you admit defeat. Although the power on their side, a business star is nothing, but the loss is also huge. Just for such a commercial star, you will be seriously injured, and there may be serious injuries that cannot be repaired for a lifetime, so you have to weigh the pros and cons. Everyone knows that the Zerg Queen is a foreign force, and they cannot really want to occupy the edge area of the central star field of the Milky Way forever. They probably just want some supply funds, etc. Fighting is the most primitive way. Because after they came here, they had no funds at all. In this case, it is a life and death war for the other party, so naturally they will go all out, but it is different for the forces here. Even if they lose a business star, this can still be done after the Zerg Queen and others leave. Okay, to come back. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1990. This This subdimensional talent exists, and the whole person is stunned. But at the same time, Jia Yan's eyes flashed, and he got close to the creature. When the enemy considers the issue of face and future friendship, he does not consider it at all. Because he knows that the strongest person in this battlefield is himself, so if he lets a subspace talent leave like this, and it is possible that the subspace talent will cause harm to him, he will definitely hurt him in advance. Let's talk later. To avoid future troubles. At least in the short term, future troubles will be avoided. The opponent did not expect that Jia Yan could avoid his own attack again. After Jia Yan avoided the attack, he immediately came back to attack him. This was something that this galaxy-level creature did not expect. This is too decisive. Doesn't it really care that it looks like a war now, but in fact both sides are recuperating? But Jia Yan was so decisive in his killing. He is doing it for his own mission, not what the other person thinks. They don't even care about what will happen to the Zerg Queen's power in the future. At least he has to complete his business star-grabbing mission. After completing this mission, his reward will be much better than before. It doesn't matter whether he is short-sighted or too eager for quick success and quick gain. In short, he is not worried at all that it will trigger a subsequent war. The opponent was already injured, but Jia Yan used explosive power to pursue him, unexpectedly hitting him suddenly. Bang! This time, the space-talented galaxy intermediate being was stabbed in the chest by Jia Yan. The other party had no idea that Jia Yan would dare to attack such a vital part of him, and he was almost going crazy with pain. Don't scream, you won't die. Jia Yan snorted like a cruel smile. The other party was shocked by Jia Yan's cruel smile. He felt that the presence of the Zerg Queen on the opposite side must be crazy. If he stimulated it again, he might really dare to kill him. This guy suddenly allowed Jia Yan to stab him. His eyes were full of hatred, but he did not dare to speak. We gave in. After sensing the meaning in Jia Yan's eyes, this subspace-talented creature had no choice but to say this. Well. At the same time, Jia Yan heard that in the normal universe outside, the creature that sneaked up on him and severely injured his hoof also let out a long sigh. They knew that they really lost this time, and not just a little bit, but a lot. It also caused them both to suffer heavy losses, and it would probably be difficult to join in future wars. The hoof creature had an injury to its hoof, which had a great impact on his strength. The one with the subspace talent was even worse. Even his own abdomen was stabbed by Jia Yan's foot. Now it is really possible to raise at least 10 or 20 people. Years injury. Jia Yan hit the creature with hooves, only to injure it. He didn't think of injuring him multiple times, because Jia Yan could hit him once and he would be hurt just as easily next time. But there's something wrong with the subspace talent. If this guy really goes back to study something to check and balance his subspace abilities, perhaps with the cooperation of other powerful masters, he might be able to push Jia Yan to a dead end. Strength itself is only a small aspect when many people join forces. As long as he uses his strength and talent well, then this guy is likely to cause life damage to creatures with the same talent. Moreover, Jia Yan knew that the other party knew more than him, at least in terms of subspace skills. It is indeed powerful, so Jia Yan must be careful next time this guy uses subspace skills that he does not understand, which limits his movement and fighting in the subspace, and then there will be a big problem. So injuring him more seriously was something Jia Yan had planned from the beginning. Lost. Outside the subspace, not only the strong man with the injured hoof was watching this battle, but others, such as the enemy's peak mid-level existence and other mid-level galactic beings, could all see this battle clearly. They all looked extremely ugly. I originally thought that I had finally selected 2 galaxy intermediate rankers on my side, and thought that they could injure Jia Yan and make him unable to control the battle situation here for a long time. But they never expected that the result would be that the 2 mid-level galaxies on their side, including the subspace being, would all suffer losses. His space talent this time, and his extremely weird powers are all very difficult things. The enemy at the top of the intermediate galaxy looked at the two intermediate galaxy beings fighting Jia Yan from a distance, like a defeated rooster. One staggered back here from the normal starry sky, and the other came back. From the subspace, he clutched his chest and returned to the team extremely weak. Stab in the chest, which is the heart of a creature. If a creature is stabbed like this, it will die immediately, but this galaxy intermediate is a galaxy intermediate after all. He uses his brainwave power to quickly block the damaged area. Then the risk is not too great. But it will take at least a while to recover from the injury. Stand still. Suddenly, a cold shout came from behind these two dingy figures. The two men suddenly became solemn. Don't forget your promise. The owner of the cold shout seemed worried because he saw the two men's concentration, and couldn't help but smile slightly in his words. Jia Yan. Don't go too far. We will definitely do what we promised. We are just a commercial star. Of course, we value your country bumpkin power very highly, but to our star field, it is just a drop in the bucket. What a drop in the bucket. Not to the extent of breaking your word like you do. This time, before the two injured beings could speak, the middle-level peak being in the galaxy behind them spoke up. Oh? We country bumpkins. Very good, then why don't you give me 2 business stars and let us see how generous you city people are. Jia Yan gradually emerged from the subspace, looking at the middle-level peak of the galaxy, and seemed not to be afraid of him at all. Jia Yan, do you think that because of the difference in strength, I won't do anything to you? Theoretically speaking, we are both in the middle level of the galaxy. The middle level peak being in the galaxy looked at Jia Yan with a little more murderous intent in his eyes. Haha, Your Excellency, you are indeed a mid-level galaxy. If you want to do something to me, not many people will say it. Of course, don't forget, it seems that the Domain Lord creature is also a mid-level galaxy in terms of level. Jia Yan's response will surprise the other party, and he will feel so angry that he wants to roar. Jia Yan. What a eloquent sophist. No, Your Excellency made a mistake. My strength is pretty good, right? Jia Yan's sophistry made the other party almost furious, but what Jia Yan said was absolutely right. He was an intermediate galaxy, and the person at the top of the intermediate galaxy was also an intermediate galaxy. But the problem is, at least at today's large levels, the domain master creature is also a mid-level galaxy. This made the other party very upset. After saying such words, he couldn't do anything to Jia Yan at all, because Jia Yan said that the territory lord was a mid-level galaxy, which was indeed the case. If this were not the case, then he could take action against Jia Yan, but the Zerg Queen could also take action against him, which eliminated the possibility of him taking action. Very good, since you said so, then I will find a way to let you know how wrong what you did today is. You really think that you are invincible at the same level? You simply underestimate me, the central star of the Milky Way, the background of the domain, and besides, you are not too far away from the peak of the intermediate level. If you really have this talent and advance to the peak of the intermediate level of the galaxy here, I will make you look good. The other party said the above words angrily. I'm also looking forward to my fight with you after I reach the middle level of Dengzeng. Jia Yan laughed. Shameless talk. The middle level peak being in the galaxy was almost furious. But at this time, his 2 mid-level galactic partners returned to their own positions, and he stopped talking. The existence of the galaxy intermediate is also an extremely important combat power for them. He has been talking to Jia Yan just now, but he is not really angry. After all, for the strong, fighting and being defeated are really a lifetime. Something that needs to be experienced many times. Especially in the central star field of the Milky Way, there are strong people who are stronger than you. For example, those who Jia Yan defeated have all experienced failures and don't think defeat is anything. I have been talking to Jia Yan, but this middle-level peak person in the galaxy wants to calm down Jia Yan. Don't kill the two losers impulsively because he is ignorant. Then Jia Yan will be unlucky, and he will be the same. Be unlucky. Is there still fighting here? Jia Yan was just about to say goodbye to the middle-level peak being in the galaxy and end this somewhat threatening and embarrassing conversation, but when he looked back, he saw that there was still a battle taking place in the starry sky behind him. The two galaxy mid-levels over there were still fighting. Jia Yan was so beaten that the battle was over, but they were still on equal footing, fighting back and forth. These two guys are about the same strength, and they are working hard right now. When Jia Yan looked back, he knew what the two sides were doing. They were actually working hard, and no one was really fighting with all their strength. He knew that the mid-level galaxy being at the end of his Zerg Queen's force actually had the strength to defeat the opponent, but he just refused to go all out. Of course, if you think about it carefully, you will understand why. The strength of both sides is still similar. If he really uses all his strength, and under this kind of battle rules, he will not kill the opponent, but he will use all his strength, and it is very likely that he will meet again next time. When it arrived, the opponent turned around and thought carefully about the moves to deal with. Maybe this is the side that will lose next time. Ever since, this was the reason why the two sides were still fighting, even though they knew that Jia Yan's side had already ended the fight. Two of you, let's call it a draw, otherwise I will join the battle group. Jia Yan sneered and shouted at the enemy's Galaxy Intermediate. The enemy Galaxy Intermediate in the battle was shocked. Then he sighed. This is the rule. If Jia Yan wins against the two mid-level galaxies, he can join their team. Although he can still hold on now, as soon as Jia Yan joins the battle group, it will be difficult for him to escape unscathed, let alone win. Jia Yan's strength is enough to deal with the two mid-level galactic beings joining forces. Oh, let's call it a draw. This mid-level galaxy existence sighed and backed away helplessly. This was already a way of giving him face. Otherwise, if Jia Yan had joined the battle group and severely injured him like the two previous mid-level galactic beings, he would not have said anything. Embarrassed and injured, it will be a long time before he can regain his fighting ability. Then you might as well give yourself some steps. Of course, even if it was a tie, it would still not change the outcome of the battle at all. Because Jia Yan's side won, the result of the entire war was that the Zerg Queen's side won. You tried your best. When the middle-level being in the galaxy who looked a little uncomfortable returned to the opponent's position, no one looked down on him. Even the top middle-level being in the galaxy even praised him. Shaking his head, the man sighed helplessly, but without saying anything, he returned to the position. Jia Yan waited for a while until another Galaxy Intermediate came to his side. Haha, you must be tired. You have been fighting for so long. I can't tell that you also want to work but don't contribute. After all, they were familiar with him, Jia Yan joked. The other party smiled bitterly. Your Excellency Jia Yan, you really think highly of me. My strength is only a little higher than the opponent's. It's not that I don't contribute, but I don't want to expose my trump card. Anyway, I won, so you don't allow me to save some time to protect myself in the future. Means. What he said was correct. He knew he had won, so he no longer thought about defeating someone with similar strength to himself. Of course, when he said these words, he also stared at Jia Yan in shock. This giant mosquito creature is a bit terrifying. It was actually able to defeat two Galaxy mid-level players who were skilled in cooperating with each other. And it was not an ordinary victory. It also beat them seriously and injured them. In the future, Jia Yan will may be very powerful. He felt that he was right to have a good relationship with Jia Yan. Although someone told him before that Jia Yan and Black Sheep were not on good terms and asked him to stay away from Jia Yan, but now he saw that it was not necessarily necessary. That way. Just as the enemy's creature at the peak of the intermediate galaxy said before, Jia Yan's strength has already reached the intermediate galaxy. If he continues to make rapid progress for a period of time in the future, even if he is given 10 years or even less, rushing to the top of the intermediate galaxy is not a strange thing. In this way, his friendly investment would be successful. Since your excellency is not injured, let's go back, we have made great achievements this time. How about a business star? What kind of reward do you think we will get? I can't say it's bad, but it's definitely not bad, ha 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 ha. The two middle-level galaxies, almost arm in arm with each other, had a very good relationship. In the eyes of the primary level and stellar level beings in their own positions, they returned to the inside of the position. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1991. Regarding Jia Yan's victory, it was transmitted back to the energy circle where the Zerg Queen was located almost instantly. For a moment, almost all the creatures in the entire energy circle were delighted that this front had obtained a new business star not long after Jia Yan arrived. At the same time, they also had a new understanding of Jia Yan's combat ability. No. Haha, this guy is good. He has only been there for a short time and he has achieved such a victory. The Zerg Queen was in her palace, watching the information silently, and finally praised Jia Yan. Yes, this guy is so powerful. He was able to win twice in a row in such a short time. Humph, he's just a barbarian. Are those local galaxy-level people so easy to deal with? If we hadn't frightened the enemy in the previous battle, any top mid-level galaxy powerhouse would be able to defeat them. He can be killed easily. Among the group of galaxy-level beings meeting beside her, some felt good about Jia Yan, while others were sarcastic. Especially since his battle situation was so smooth, many people thought that Jia Yan had taken advantage of everyone because of the last time. The war resulted in serious injuries, and they ran out to pick up the fruits of the war. If they had the ability to fight, these war situations might have fallen on them. Of course, some aspects of what they said are quite accurate, and Jia Yan did take some advantage. After all, without the previous war, the two sides would not have formed the delicate balance they have today, nor would they have faced so many enemies. At that time, Jia Yan, a mid-level star player, was actually able to act as a decisive deterrent to them. But Jia Yan didn't deny what these galaxy-level people said. These people just grabbed some points and started attacking Jia Yan. In particular, some of them secretly looked at Black Sheep while they were talking, obviously to please this unfriendly being who had been silent and unfriendly to Jia Yan. The Zerg Queen seemed to have expected all this. She just looked back at the Black Sheep and then said nothing else. For her, the disputes among her subordinates are all about the balance of power. Playing it well can also make the forces explode with more combat effectiveness. This is also a kind of Machiavellian technique. Although Black Sheep has been being peeked at, especially those who showed loyalty, they have been looking at him, as if they want him to come out and say something bad about Jia Yan, but today, he seems to be there, as if the old god is there, not at all. After all, for Black Sheep, everyone knows that he is against Jia Yan. If he comes to say bad things about Jia Yan when Jia Yan has received military honors, then it would be a bit excessive. The Zerg Queen will not be happy either, because although she is also happy to see competition among her subordinates, this competition must be within the power, not outside the power. Okay, now we don't need to say whether Jia Yan did anything opportunistic. We just need to say that he has indeed made meritorious deeds. How to reward him will be a problem. The Zerg Queen set the tone for this mission. This was a big victory. If she was not rewarded for such a victory, then she would be disqualified as the top leader. A commercial star has too many benefits for us. I suggest that the commercial star be managed by Jiayan, and part of the commercial tax and special product trading rights can be given to Jiayan to take care of. These were the words spoken by the intergalactic being who was a neighbor to Jiayan. The fact that he and Jiayan are neighbors and have a good relationship has been spread recently, so no one is surprised why he would speak for Jiayan. It's not that this person was harmed by Jiayan, it's just that he thinks that Jiayan is indeed a good neighbor. He could feel Jiayan's deliberately friendly attitude before, so his attitude towards Jiayan became friendly. Moreover, to him, Jiayan is an extremely talented being. When they first came to the center of the galaxy together, he was only a being who could compete with the mid-level stars of the galaxy. Everyone only thought that he could barely resist. No one thought that they would lose to him, but now that Jiayan had reached the middle level of the galaxy, these middle-level beings of the galaxy all thought that they might really lose to Jiayan. The previous battles have proven this, especially this time. Among the galaxy mid-level players who faced off against two enemies in front of the formation, one of them had the same talent as Jiayan. In theory, he could slightly restrain Jiayan's presence. But Jiayan still won. This shows that his friend is right and worth investing in. As for whether he would antagonize Black Sheep because of this, the Galaxy Intermediate didn't think too much about it. In fact, he and Black Sheep seemed to be inseparable from each other. Otherwise, he would not have responded to Jiayan's kindness after becoming neighbors with him. Snort. Black Sheep looked at the Galaxy Intermediate from a distance, but there were other friends around him. These people united and looked at each other with Black Sheep. Even Black Sheep felt a little uncomfortable and did not look at them. Turned away his eyes. After all, they are galaxy-level beings. Even if their strength alone is far inferior to that of Black Sheep, a group of them can still compete with Black Sheep, so they are still weak compared to the group behind Black Sheep. But at least they are all subordinates of the Zerg Queen. Black Sheep would never dare to blatantly deal with so many galaxy mid-levels. Then the first person to cause trouble for him would be the Zerg Queen. I have no opinion. After Black Sheep thought about it for a while, he still responded. Now that the largest opposition faction, Black Sheep, has said this, the other galaxy levels naturally have no objections. They expressed their opinions one by one, and almost all agreed with Jiayan's statement about managing the newly acquired business star. But one thing is that Jiayan must take care of the position together. After all, the position is the most important. If Jiayan sees the profits of commercial star and then abandons the position, what will he do when the enemy comes to attack? Without Jiayan, that position would not be easy to defend. And we have to be on guard. Our enemies will never be willing to lose such a commercial star, in case they engage in such a gambling fight in the future. We have to make a three-part agreement. We do not recognize private gambling fights, and future gambling fights need to be booked in advance, otherwise we won't admit it. The Zerg Queen still has some good personnel, and some of them directly said the above words. What he said is correct. After all, Jiayan won this commercial star. It was an extremely unexpected event. Coupled with the arrogance of his enemies and the results from their superiors, it was the result that Jiayan won this commercial star. It is hard to say what happens next. The enemy had a rough understanding of Jiayan's strength in this battle. If they provoke him again next time and Jiayan easily agrees again, he may give up commercial star, and may even suffer greater losses. I agree with this statement. Let's settle it like this. Private bets are not allowed in the future. Please note to the enemy that we will no longer agree with private bets in the future. If you want to do this again, please contact us first. Let's talk about it later. The Zerg Queen made her final decision about the galaxy-level existence below. So not long after, the position where Jiayan and others were located a few light years away quickly received the mission reward evaluation from above. Oh, I actually gave you the management rights of the business star, and even a certain commission ratio. This is amazing. Jia Yan, you can send it, but even if I give you these, I can't make you give up your position. It's clearly written in black and white on the paper. I see, are you giving me the right to manage the commercial star? But will the benefits be great if you manage a planet like this? And I still have to sit in command, so what will happen to the planet? Jia Yan and his fellow Zing mid-level comrade in his own camp read the notice from above. When he fell down, Jia Yan was a little confused. Fortunately, the people around him were very familiar with this and explained it to Jia Yan. Oh, there will be someone in Commercial Star to help me take care of it. I only need to take care of the accounts. In other words, I just wait to make money, okay. Her Majesty the Queen is a bit more generous this time. Why are you talking? Your Majesty the Queen is always so generous, okay. Jia Yan's words made that person very angry. Is that what he said about the Queen? She has always been very generous. That's right, you gave me the star core last time. Jia Yan quickly realized his aphasia. In fact, that's right. The Queen was extremely kind to him and helped him a lot, especially for the last breakthrough, and gave him some star core material. You must know that that thing is very tempting to the Galaxy class, but she just chose it. Gave it to Jia Yan. This shows that she is not stingy at all. Then I'll just wait to collect the money now, I understand. It's still a little different. In the future, the Queen will send a small team over. When you meet them, they will be the team to manage for you. If you feel it is not suitable, you can change the team and they will take a share of your share. The money is treated as their management fee, but this management fee is necessary. After all, you don't have to do anything. The comrades around him were still explaining tirelessly for Jia Long. Well, I'll give them a management fee. I hope they're not unreliable. If they're greedy or don't manage well, the losses will be huge. Jia Yan was still a little uneasy. You don't have to worry about any of this. The people sent by the Queen will manage it well. Any losses will be borne by the Queen. You really just have to wait to receive the money. So good. Jia Yan said it was so good, and he was absolutely right, it was indeed so good. The team didn't let him wait long. It only took less than half a month, and it arrived when the situation here was still tense. Very good, I'm very satisfied with you. Jia Yan personally received the team. This team surprised him. There were not many star levels, only 2 star levels, and it was said that there would only be 1 star level in charge, and the others were all venerable level creatures. But he knew very well that each of these weak biological experts was good at management. There really aren't a few creatures in the Zerg Queen's team that are useless. Even stars and venerables must have certain other specialties in addition to strength, otherwise they would not be able to join her this trip to the center of the galaxy. Therefore, each existence has a certain ability, such as those who decorated the planet previously, and those who help manage it now. Master Jia Yan, we will definitely not disappoint you. We just hope that you can come and sit in charge for a day or two when you first start to manage the planet. This will have a deterrent effect on Xiao Xiao. In that team, there was a star-level being who pursued the Tao like this. It's not like they haven't managed planets before, but the planets they are asked to manage now only have several star-level planets. As for the galaxy-level planets, they were there before, but after they were transferred to the forces of the Zerg Queen, they had to get out. There is no need to leave the stellar level, because after leaving the stellar level, it is like the team on the planet has no core, which will cause great losses. And in fact, even those Galaxy Class ones can't leave, but the strength of the Galaxy Class is too strong. If they don't leave, it's hard to say who will be the manager of the commercial star, so it is more correct to drive them away. Okay, I'll go with you and sit down for a while. Jia Yan had no excuse at all. After all, this was something that was good for him. He came to participate in the mission just to earn enough money. He would not miss a commercial planet. It would be best if Mr. Jia Yan could take the time to come, so that we can have confidence. Besides, the average strong man above will have someone from before to give them a heads up. We are afraid of those strong men who have nothing to do with the original domain master's power. They are the most troublesome. When they heard that Jia Yanhui was willing to come up and help, several senior managers were a little happy. Of course, everyone knows that Jia Yan will definitely be willing to agree. After all, it is all money. After a few days, there was still no response from the enemy's position. Jia Yan simply left the position and quietly used his subspace talent to move to a farther place. Then he contacted the management team. The blue commercial star looks like a sky blue agate stone in the starry sky. If Jia Yan is to speak, this planet is similar to the Earth. The difference is that the atmosphere on this planet is much better than that on Earth, and the technology and cultivation are many times better than those on Earth. People come and go on the planet, and countless strong people drive commercial spaceships or warships to take off on the planet, then reach the starry sky, and then fly at faster than light speeds. This planet is indeed extremely prosperous, but there are more powerful people. When Jia Yan's huge giant mosquito body came to this planet, the whole planet was shocked. A galaxy-level existence like Jia Yan reaches 30 or 40 kilometers. For a planet with a diameter of only 10 or 20,000 kilometers, it is almost like a city. In this city, most of the creatures are still below the venerable level, and there are only a few star levels, let alone the galactic levels that have been driven away. So when the middle-level galaxy like Jia Yan, which is more than 30 kilometers in size, comes, the whole city who knows the information is slightly shocked and feels that the sky has changed. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1992. Those who knew the information were like that, and those who didn't knew were even more panicked. Countless creatures were looking up at the sky. Seeing the behemoth that was comparable to a small planet, they just came to this commercial star. At times, everyone feels a little bit frightened. Horrible. Is this the business star we grabbed? It's a little behind compared to what I thought. Especially in terms of strong people, there aren't as many strong people as I thought. Jia Yan stood in the sky, looking at the huge planet below his feet. Countless spaceships and battleships on the breath ball were quickly taking off, some of them were loaded with cargo, and some were carrying creatures trying to escape. Lord Jia Yan, it's not that they don't have strong people, but that the strong ones among them have fled this place. In other words, they were driven away by us. Oh, that's right. Jia Yan was reminded by an administrative person next to him, and he immediately understood the situation, and was a little embarrassed. Why did he speak about such a simple thing without thinking clearly? That's right, the planet has been taken over, why are the strong ones left here to fight? Or should I say, I surrendered if I stayed. That's too exaggerated. If you win a planet, you will also get several galaxy-level powerhouses. Then when you want subordinates, don't conquer them, just go to the astrological sphere. Each astrological sphere has a galaxy level, and even it is too easy for two people, the majority of people, to want subordinates. I didn't think about it. Okay, what are we going to do now? Should we go down directly, or something like that? Jia Yan took a look and found that there were indeed several places on the planet that could accommodate galaxy-level existences, but there were not that many places where he could stay, and even if there were, they were not that big. Sir, let's go down directly. This planet has just been recovered not long after all. Let's go to the ocean of that planet. This way, there will be enough space for us. Several stars spoke so respectfully to Jia Yan. Okay. Only one of the coming star classes will sit on this planet in the future, and the others are here to help solve the initial handover problem. After all, if a planet is attacked or destroyed, it is relatively simple. but if you want to occupy it, and if you want to prevent it from decaying instantly, it is difficult. There are too many problems involved, including people's livelihood and administrative matters. Problems, as well as the problems in people's hearts, all need to be solved by professionals. Jia Yan didn't understand at all. He came to this planet just to support the surrounding stars, and he also came to declare his status: in the future, this planet will belong to me. If there is any galactic level spy here who wants to take action here, give him a bright spot, otherwise he will definitely come to cause trouble in the future. Jia Yan's behavior is actually quite useful, especially on this planet, where Jia Yan discovered several galaxy-level clones. He didn't even need to go over there to show up directly. Instead, he snorted coldly, and many of his clones perished directly. There were only a few of them with extremely ugly expressions, and they ran away while yelling, "Jia Yan, don't be too good at being a human being. You will be good looking in the future." Jia Yan looked at these clones, and after thinking about it, he still didn't pursue them. These clones were able to survive his slight exertion of brainwave power without dying, which shows that they have the strength of the middle level of the galaxy. Then the true identities of these clones were instantly revealed. Around this battlefield, there were enemies with mid-level strength in the galaxy. Aren't they the same ones who fought with him? After thinking about it for a while, Jia Yan had no intention of breaking up with them directly. War is like this. People at the top don't fight as fiercely as those at the bottom. Sometimes, there is even the possibility of turning enemies into friends. So Jia Yan did not go after him directly. He had fought with the enemy until now. Even though it looked a bit tragic, in fact, he still fought based on certain noble rules and frameworks, just like the middle-level peak of galaxy. As for the existence of Jia Yan, just as he couldn't attack him, he also had to give the other party some face, otherwise he would become angry and apply for a thunder strike against Jia Yan to kill him, which would be a big problem. Of course, Jia Yan also knows that these enemies today have probably wanted to kill him for a long time, but now they just don't have many excuses. After all, everything he does follows the rules, even if sometimes he is a little too much. It's a little harsh, but all of this is just a little too much done by Jia Yan. But there is something wrong with killing the clones of other people. On this commercial planet, everyone is talking about handover. In other words, there is nothing wrong with the enemies who remain on this planet now. If the enemy is still there in the future, then he can be killed. If he is killed now, it will give the enemy a reason to cause trouble for Jia Yan. Therefore, Jia Yan did not continue to take action against these mid-level clones of the galaxy. Presumably, they would also understand Jia Yan's friendly attitude. As for those at the beginning of the galaxy? Sorry, for a mid-level star like him, the novice star is already a soy sauce character. Jia Yan doesn't care about their opinions and dissatisfaction at all. This is how it is in the universe, the strong is supreme. Moreover, Jia Yan is still a middle-level star. Even though there are many beings much stronger than him in the central star field of the galaxy, his status and strength as a middle-level star are it is absolutely not allowed to be trampled on. No matter where you go, there is no reason for the weak to be at the beginning of the galaxy. Okay, now all the irrelevant personnel inside have been cleared away. Jia Yan smiled at them, and then led a group of subordinates who were a little bit thunderous towards Jia Yan and felt ruthless, and descended to the planet one after another. In a large ocean, Jia Yan finally found a corner where he could stay. The 30-kilometer-long figure just floated above the starry sky, silently looking at the surrounding scenery. This commercial star really feels a bit like a commercial star. We have come here, and there are so many merchant ships. Jia Yan saw that on the ocean of this planet, the trade on the ocean was good, and there were many creatures playing in the ocean on merchant ships. Obviously, many rich people are not too concerned about today's things. Big impact. After all, they also know that this war is just two major forces fighting for the commercial rights of the commercial star. As their economic presence on this commercial star, even if they are not strong, they are definitely loved by both parties. Or even an object of contention. So they are not afraid at all. But when Jia Yan and a group of stellar beings landed on this ocean, many of the wealthy people on the cruise ship were slightly surprised for a moment. However, they quickly realized that this was their former enemy, now their master, leading his subordinates to inspect their territory. This lord is so terrifying. His strength is at least galaxy level. Moreover, there is also a difference in strength between the galaxy level and the galaxy level. This lord, his strength is at least the galaxy intermediate level, and among the galaxy intermediate level, he is definitely not a weakling. Wow, galaxy intermediate. It is said that galaxy intermediate is not far away from the territory lord creature. The strongest person in our force, that is, that lord, is only a territory lord creature. This strong man is already far away from that territory lord creature. Isn't your lord far away? Ha ha ha, you just don't understand. Territory lord creatures are still very different from ordinary galaxy mid-level beings, and general galaxy mid-level beings are relatively weak to territory lord creatures. Both sides, although the gap is only half a step, it is actually like a chasm. Is that so? I really didn't know there was such a big difference between domain lord creatures and intermediate galaxy creatures. I was taught a lesson. Haha, but you are right. Whether it is a domain lord or a middle-level galactic master, they are all impossible to provoke to venerable beings like us. Treat them as the same. That's fine too. That's true. In Jia Yan's ears, he often heard such sounds from the cruise ships around him. Sir, do you want these noisy weaklings to stay away? The star-level being looked at Jia Yan, and quickly asked Jia Yan as if he understood. For strong people like them, even if the creatures on the cruise ship speak very quietly, unless they deliberately don't listen, the words will automatically reach their ears, making them uncomfortable. After all, there are powerful creatures, such as mid-level beings in the galaxy. They are definitely not masters of sensationalism, but existences that need to be looked up to. There are so many creatures in this ocean, and they actually feel a bit judgmental. This is not a good thing for a strong person. I mean, it's a little uncomfortable. Forget it, that's it, as long as I don't listen. Jia Yan shook his head. He was in a good mood, otherwise he might not have allowed those weaklings to approach him. The cruise ships didn't dare to approach, except for one that was already nearby. At this time, they retreated slightly. Seeing the huge creatures dozens of kilometers here, they didn't seem to want to punish them at all, and they suddenly became bolder. Gradually, they don't go far or get close, they just stop at their own place. Jia Yan saw that in the oil tanker, there were actually some creatures that seemed to be only about heaven level, filming him from a distance, as if they were filming some big shot or star. He even thought of his life on Earth. This planet is peaceful. Even if the planet changes hands, they are not in a hurry. Jia Yan also wanted to laugh, and was infected by the feeling of this peaceful planet. Haha, it is said that in the central star field of this galaxy, many ordinary planets are actually very peaceful. Even if there are enemies to occupy them, as long as the enemies are not very aggressive, they will not too much resistance. After all, resistance here is equal to death. There is no possibility of survival at all. In addition, most of the forces still need a business star or a resource star, and the people above them will not. They will be treated too poorly, which is why these weaklings never thought about fighting for a force. A star level explained to Jia Yan. With this said, Jia Yan understood. Very good, I understand. So, our resistance should be very small, right? That's not to say. After all, after changing owners, many interests will fluctuate. Some people even have interests that conflict with ours. How to deal with them and whether to use force are all headaches. So we need Mr. Jiayan to come in person and help us, otherwise how could we dare to work for you who are busy on the front line? Several star-level people are quite good at talking, and Jiayan feels a little like spring breeze. No wonder others are working as executives, but I am not good at it. My eloquence and emotional intelligence are far behind. But I have fists, oh no, feet will do. Jiayan smiled and said, okay, as you said, now that I have seen this planet, let's go find the places of resistance you mentioned. I will go and see which one dares to hinder the acceptance of our power. He didn't often talk about the Zerg Queen's power, because he never felt that he was a member of the Zerg Queen's power. He only joined with the Zerg Queen's power in his own name. Now in this relationship, Jiayan is the weaker party for the time being, so he will blur the meaning of expression and so on. In the future, he will truly distinguish it when he has his own strength or means. The Zerg Queen naturally knew that Jiayan thought this way, and even many strong men knew what Jiayan was thinking, but no one said anything to him, not even the black sheep. Because black sheep themselves joined the Zerg Queen's forces in this way. If they use this rhetoric to attack Jiayan, what about themselves? Sir, come on, I just received intelligence. There is a force on this continent that refuses to talk to us. They just insist on their own interests. Seeing that Jiayan was so enlightened, a star-level star also directly expressed his difficulties. Haha, lead the way. Jiayan smiled slightly. Find bookstore. Then, under the leadership of a group of stars, he flew around the planet in a majestic manner. For Jiayan, this commercial star is prosperous, but he can't feel the prosperous commercial star without a clone. Because his body is so big, once the real body enters, it is said that he enjoys the prosperity and can destroy less than half of a city in one sitting. The little mosquito at the beginning has now truly become an extremely terrifying starry sky beast. Haha, this, sir, we said that we don't want to resist your power, but there are some things that we also want to live, so we want you to give us a little face. After all, our power is the best for these things. Tao. A half-star level being, almost all of his body was lying on the ground, trembling as he looked at the huge mosquito as tall as a mountain above his head. His posture was low, but his mouth refused to relax at all. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1993. For the native forces on this planet, they do want something. But this is because they feel that they have that strength, and they have some resources in their hands. If they are not willing to give them some benefits, then the people from the Zerg Queen's force will take over, and they will at least be in chaos for a long time, and in the end they will barely manage it. It's hard to find anything that's very cost-effective here, so this is what they rely on. It's a pity that they have many support sticks, but they encountered an unreasonable one. In other words, strong people are unreasonable. Bang! The head of the speaking venerable level creature exploded in an instant. It is easy for Jiayan to deal with a noble level creature. He can kill it with just a thought. This sir, are you just going to kill someone? The other venerable level creature on the other side never expected that this mid-level galaxy being from the Zerg Queen's power would be so domineering and kill people directly. Haha, you must have been in a peaceful planet for a long time, and your brains are a bit dull. How dare you threaten a strong man? Not to mention Mr. Jiayan, even I know your behavior. I will also kill them all in one breath. Beside Jiayan, a star-level being sneered. Well. The noble-level creature was speechless. Yes, they are in the central star region of the Milky Way, which is the most developed and the most prosperous culture of strong people in the entire galaxy. But for strong people like them who have stayed on ordinary planets for a long time, the killing of the outside world has long been a bit difficult. They have forgotten, or even forgotten, that there is actually a huge gap between them and the real strong ones. Jia Yan's brainwave power made the venerable level creature recall the relationship between the strong and the weak, and he suddenly shivered in fear and became silent. Okay, don't scare them. They are just some venerables. There is nothing gained by scaring them. Anyway, you can take over now. Those who want to live, stay and work hard and hand over things. Those who don't want to live, you just kill him. Jia Yan didn't want to care too much about this kind of thing, so he flew into the sky without stopping at all. Behind him, a star-level creature stayed behind consciously and did what Jia Yan didn't want to do. He is not worried about his own danger, because on a planet, even if there are other star-level stars that want to attack him, he himself may be able to defeat him. Even if he cannot defeat him, such a planet is 10,000 kilometers away. Jia Yan can quickly arrive at a planet with a diameter of 100,000 square meters, and even before he arrives, he can use his brainwave power to help solve safety problems. Besides, the enemy is even willing to hand over the planet. It would be too stupid to ambush them on this planet at a mere star level. Jia Yan did not find any enemies on this planet that were worthy of his attention. After all, the Galaxy class would never stay on this planet that had lost to the Zerg Queen. As for the Stellar class existence, Jia Yan, don't you think that any star-level existence is an enemy worthy of special attention? On the other hand, there were some not-so-sensible venerable-level creatures who claimed to be big bosses who had been operating on this commercial planet for a long time. However, one or two of them were killed by Jia Yan without any emotion at all. The top executives of other small forces who heard the news were all panic-stricken. Even those big guys who had been in the local area for a long time, even if there was a change of power before, were eliminated lightly, and they were nothing. This commercial star really didn't have too many worries before. Even if there were some creatures that escaped from the commercial star, it was because they were relatives of the hostile forces or loyal supporters, otherwise they would not have escaped. But at this moment, countless ordinary people, or businessmen, wanted to escape. This new business star owner is really a bit too domineering. But the problem is, it seems that Jia Yan and the others have already expected this. The entire planet is temporarily only allowed to enter, not to leave. Suddenly, countless businesses were affected, many people were furious, and many people went bankrupt. Many people are questioning that this new owner doesn't understand business at all, let alone how much such a prosperous business star will lose if he loses one day's business. This will make people panic, and no one will want to be there in the future. Business on this planet. But regarding business matters, Jia Yan really didn't understand anything, but his subordinates did. The subordinates who came with Jia Yan all knew clearly what kind of losses would be caused if commercial star was blocked, and what kind of loss of people's hearts would be caused, but they would not persuade them. Jia Yan, because they know that this is the fastest way to regain this place. For Jia Yan and these star-level and venerable-level creatures from the Zerg Queen's force, the matter of commercial star is not a major matter of concern to them at all. The life and death of the people here have no impact on them. Everyone is not of the same race. The people of the Zerg Queen's force are all like Jia Yan, coming from a distant place, let alone any blood relationship, so there is no point in talking about humanity. Significance. Therefore, it doesn't matter to Jia Yan and these people how many ordinary people will be affected, how many families will go bankrupt, and how much social unrest it will cause. What matters is how long it will take. Only then can we take control of this planet and produce it immediately, adding to the power of the Zerg Queen. Master Jia Yan, this is most of what we can deal with now. Also, we have received intelligence that several star-level beings on this planet have also applied for leave procedures. If you think it is okay, sir, we let it go. After 3 days of cleaning operations, Jia Yan waited on the ocean for this report from his subordinates. Ordinary business forces, etc., seemed to fall apart after Jia Yan personally took action several times. The forces that seemed to be relatively solid suddenly changed their direction quickly. It was better to suffer losses than to die, so they all recognized the situation and bowed their heads to Jia Yan and others. As for those star-level ones, to be honest, Jia Yan didn't target them. But these star-level existences are like sitting on pins and needles on this planet, for fear that Jia Yan, who dares to kill anyone, will come and kill them. Compared with the star level, at least in the central star field of this galactic system, it pales in comparison to the galaxy level. If they die, almost no one will come to Jia Yan, a strong man in the middle level of the galaxy, because of their death. Even though there are a few of them who come with a mission, for them, this is not something worth risking their lives to do. It's just information. On this planet, there are countless ordinary creatures that can do it. If they stay here as stars, the most they can do is declare that this place was once the territory of a certain force, nothing more. If Jia Yan wants to kill people, these stars will of course have no choice but to panic. Let them go. Killing them all is not a good idea. After all, they are all related to outside forces. Jia Yan has a lot of Buddhist skills now. In other words, where iron blood is possible, Jia Yan knows the iron type. Where iron blood is not possible, or where iron blood is not available, or where iron blood is not available, he will deal with it more rationally. These star-level existences pose no threat to Jia Yan. It would be better to just let them go if he kills himself to cause trouble. Jia Yan was relatively friendly towards these remaining star-level creatures and let them go. After all these stars left, the Zerg Queen's forces and people who stayed on this planet all breathed a sigh of relief. The traces they left on this commercial star could never be hidden from Jia Yan, so Jia Yan knew best whether they left or not. Even Jia Yan was sure that there was no star-level force on this planet other than the Zerg Queen, so this judgment was almost correct. As for the Galaxy class, apart from the Territory Lord, Jia Yan probably has no other Galaxy class. Of course, if there is a Territory Lord or even a high-level galaxy being above the Territory Lord who is full and has nothing to do and hides underground on this planet, then he has nothing to say and is out of luck. In a planet with billions of billions, there are only so many domain lords and high-level galaxies. If something like this, which has a smaller chance of winning the lottery jackpot 100 times in a row, happens to him, then he can only say that he is unlucky. Of course, such an event is highly unlikely to occur. So after Jia Yan stabilized the situation of the entire commercial star, gradually the work of taking over the power began. The Zerg Queen's manpower is still relatively abundant, or they are not very abundant, but at least when a new planet is accepted, other professionals from the place where it was just received will be transferred to help with the reception until the next new planet is received. The planet is occupied, and they have to go to the next one. Is this the intelligence you summarized? You acted quickly. Jia Yan was extremely surprised by the information in his hand. The key point for such a huge planet is that it has too many people. Such demographic and economic surveys, as well as numerous dark force detections, etc., all were investigated clearly in just a few days. Oh, so I can gain a lot of high-level energy. Jia Yan looked at the information submitted by a star level, and then was slightly surprised. It should be said to be a surprise. Because he saw that he would gain a lot of intermediate energy. More than 50,000 high-level energy in 1 month, this is simply a huge profit. Jia Yan was a little shocked after seeing the data. Master Jia Yan, you have to know that this is a planet in the center of the galaxy. Their output is extremely amazing to us people there, but to them it is not a big deal. What? The star who came to report was so shocked when he saw Jia Yan, then he suppressed his smile and spoke humbly to him. Jia Yan's shock only lasted for a short period of time. After he figured it out, he was no longer so shocked. That's right. I think I'm overthinking it. The planet in the center of the galaxy is naturally much richer than the planets outside. Otherwise, what would we do in the center of the galaxy? Jia Yan nodded, and then he stopped being so gloomy and continued to listen to the intelligence report. Very good. I will only take these 50,000 or so in the future. I won't ask for much else. You have taken care of this planet for me. If anything happens, I will ask you for it. The star-level existence became serious when he heard this. He knew that Jia Yan was giving him encouragement at the end. Okay, Master Jia Yan, I will manage this planet well in the future, and I will also follow my words and prepare your share to you on time. Very good, then I'll leave. I'll come back if something happens in the future. Jia Yan spread his wings and flew away directly. Naturally, he walked in a chic manner. In one fell swoop, he got part of the benefits of this business star. For a galaxy level like him, it was as simple as coming to Playhouse and reaping the benefits. But of course, it is still necessary for a galaxy class like him to come here to suppress the enemy's planetary forces. The previous queen of the Zerg once wanted to implement a more orthodox and gentle management method on the last commercial planet. After all, in this way, the harm to the planet's handover will be relatively small, and the benefits they can obtain will be maximized. But the problem is that the last planet actually directly killed a star level sent by the Zerg Queen, and at the same time caused the death of several venerable level creatures. This made the Zerg Queen furious and made the planet suffered a lot of death, and then it calmed down slightly. Therefore, Jia Yan's behavior on this commercial star, other creatures, can be found in Chiyuan. Not to mention the Zerg Queen will agree, even the black sheep who has always been at odds with Jia Yan will agree, because Jia Yan's actions were to protect the interests of the entire force. And Jia Yan has been here for a while and then left. There is no way. If he can take a break, Jia Yan still wants to play on this commercial star. Even if he just floats on the ocean and releases his clones to have fun, that's fine. Not a bad choice. But there is no way, the war on the front line is too tight. He can't leave. This Lord Jia Yan is indeed as legendary as he is. He is astonishingly powerful and approachable. The star-level creature was watching from a distance on the planet. After entering space, it tore apart the subspace in an instant. Jia Yan, who entered the subspace, was sighing at Jia Yan's behavior. A mid-level galaxy creature, no matter how many there are in the center of the galaxy, or how many mid-level galactic beings there are, is not very top-notch, but for the power of the Zerg Queen, this strength is really shocking. If you throw away around the former Zerg Queen's area, except for a few galaxy-level powerhouses such as the Zerg Queen and Black Sheep, no one could threaten Jia Yan. Even Jia Yan was gifted in subspace, and even Black Sheep did not dare to say that he could definitely do so. Kill Jia Yan. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1994. That is to say, in terms of the Zerg Queen's power alone, if he returns to the Zerg territory, Jia Yan is definitely a top-level existence worth mentioning. Except for him who committed suicide and went to provoke the Zerg Queen, other strong people can't kill him. And such a mid-level galaxy being is actually so easy to talk to. This stellar powerhouse admires Jia Yan's character. In this way, every member who works for the Zerg Queen's forces on this planet has planted deep seeds of friendship towards Jia Yan. It is natural for Jia Yan to be friendly with them. Those people should not be greedy for my money. After all, my relationship with them is now considered good. Jia Yan was in the subspace, smiling slightly. In fact, the reason why he has friendly interactions with those stars is not because he is really approachable. Although there is a certain relationship in it, the more important thing is that Jia Yan actually values that batch of money very much. 50,000 high-level energy a month. This is still a small part of his money. If we talk about the entire commercial star's monthly money, Thinking about it, Jia Yan was surprised by the Zerg Queen, how much money she could make. However, the money does not belong to the Zerg Queen herself, but to the entire force. But Jia Yan also believes that with so many territories she has acquired, she will definitely get a lot of money every month. I have the strength. With my strength, I can control 50,000 high-level energy in a month, which makes me laugh. Jia Yan shook his head, feeling that he had thought too much and was a fool to compare himself with the Zerg Queen. He restrained his thoughts and continued to rush to the position. Now, he has put things on the battlefield further back, because the problem of money and the emergence of this planet are no longer a problem in an instant, so his urgent thoughts about resources are not that strong. The idea of killing the enemy on the battlefield is naturally not high. But now that I have accepted the mission, there is no turning back. Jia Yan does have some ideas, that is, taking advantage of the middle stage of this battle, when safety is guaranteed, to continue fighting more enemy strongmen to improve his actual combat capabilities. By the way, what kind of fighting methods do the galaxy-level powerhouses in the central star field of the Milky Way use? If everything goes well, he will soon have a good plan to deal with the powerful people in the central star field of the Milky Way. This is a very important thing for Jia Yan. Boom boom boom. In the subspace, Jia Yan moved quickly. It's not far from the battlefield, but Jia Yan didn't go deep into space, so it would take a few days to travel. For a few days, he put aside the business of commercial star and just recalled the previous battles in his mind. He secretly replayed the battle situation and rehearsed certain ideas and techniques when fighting the enemy. These are some special skills that strong people have. Of course, whether every strong person will have them depends on each person, and the actual effect is not the same for everyone. At least for Jia Yan, such thoughts and fighting fantasies are neither too good nor too bad. They are somewhat useful and are better than nothing. In my last battle, if I had attacked that subspace talent from the beginning, the battle would have ended quickly, and I wouldn't even have to expose the yin and yang dao. Of course, in the last battle, I was more focused on testing my strength after my promotion has a bit of a tempering factor in it, but I can't deny it so easily. Jia Yan was thinking about how to end the previous battles faster, and how to deal with the enemy's full attack in a real fight. They didn't use their trump card, or they wanted to have some backup, or they lost to me too quickly. As a result, they didn't have time to use it. Jia Yan was analyzing which of the several situations it was, but in the end he felt that it should be the last one. These two mid-level galactic beings should have lost too quickly, which prevented them from even using their trump card. After all, that was a battle involving a business star. These two people would not be stupid enough to deliberately lose a business star in order to protect their trump card. In other words, even if their strength is used at full strength, it will not be much stronger than that battle. In this case, I feel relieved. The final result of Jia Yan's analysis of the previous battle was that he was much stronger than his opponent. It's not that the two of them are not strong enough when they join forces, but that he is much stronger. Except for being a little confused by the subspace gifted creature, he performed pretty well at other times. Through this battle, Jia Yan gained a clearer understanding of the galaxy-level mid-level powerhouses in the central star region of the Milky Way. It's really strong. After all, he was able to kill the mid-level beings in the outside world when he was only at the first level of the galaxy. But now that he is already the mid-level galaxy, he thinks that he can go to the outside world and face the annihilation in the past. Those mid-level galaxies that I have passed through were killed within 3 moves, not just in 1 move. But in the central star field of the Milky Way, any intermediate galaxy that he encounters at random requires him to release nearly 70% to 80% of his combat power. It is very difficult to kill them with 1 move. Moreover, these are not top-level galactic powerhouses. Jia Yan estimates that many of the talented mid-level galactic powerhouses in the central star region of the Milky Way, even those of the same level, cannot beat him. This is the central star field of the Milky Way. It's an interesting place. However, my primary purpose here is not to fight. The main purpose is to let everyone use their strengths for me. Jia Yan actually has many purposes. Some of them are to make up for his weaknesses and make progress in yin and yang dao, some of them are to hone his fighting power, some are for energy, and others are to broaden his horizons. So many goals are moving forward step by step. In addition, during the last battle, I didn't have time to use the alien space attack technique that I was thinking about, and this technique was not strong enough for the mid-level beings in the galaxy, so I didn't use it. When I fight next time, I will continue to think about it, and there is a high probability that I can use it. The alien space attack technique that Jia Yan mastered in the game Starry Sky had already been roughly sketched before, and he had also killed a half-star creature, even one that was several light years away. Killing at a distance is like a divine spell to many creatures. Jia Yan also feels that this skill is extremely easy to use. If used well in the future, it may become his most powerful move. He didn't ask for how powerful this move would be in the end. He wouldn't dare to think of killing someone of the same level, but being able to kill some powerful people or cause them to be injured from a long distance would be too much for Jia Yan. With a super long-range sniper rifle, whoever dares to provoke him, no matter how far away, as long as he is within the distance of this alien space attack move, he will make the opponent panic. Coming to this starry sky is actually quite beneficial. After all, this is the feeling of broadening your horizons. If I hadn't come here, I wouldn't have learned the attack moves in the alien space. Even after that, I still have more development spaces available. Jia Yan thought, if he mastered the alien space move better, just like the subline move, would he be able to penetrate into the alien space like he went to the subspace? I wonder if that alien space is the giant world I've been to. If so, there's a lot to be done. Jia Yan has been thinking about whether he can go to the alien space when his strength reaches the limit in the future, or in other words, the giant space. A giant is 1,000 kilometers high, and the strong people there are very likely to exceed the galaxy level is full of temptation for people like Jia Yan who pursue a powerful path. Forget it, don't think about it too much now. In short, the use of this skill gives me more options. If there is a chance in the future, I will try it. Jia Yan sighed and felt that there were actually quite a lot of things to do in the future. But after thinking about it, reality becomes reality. Today, he is still in the middle level of this galaxy, far away from dominating the galaxy, let alone above the galaxy level. Arrive. Unknowingly, after thinking for several days, Jia Yan found himself at the position. At this level of battle intensity, the enemy would not spend a lot of money or risk continuing the war to sneak attack Jia Yan. Moreover, they should know very well that Jia Yan can even dodge a sneak attack that seriously injures the Domain Lord's creature. It's useless for ordinary creatures to sneak attack without being prepared. Who? A huge figure emerged from the subspace like wind. Master Jia Yan, you are back. Originally accompanying him, a star-level powerhouse guarding this space was extremely vigilant, always ready to attack and warn, but when he saw the size of the creature and his figure, he knew it was a friendly force. Not the enemy. Well, you're alert, keep it up. Jia Yan smiled slightly. I will definitely keep it up, Lord Jia Yan, walk slowly. The star-level powerhouse was quite decent and didn't say hello to Jia Yan too much. This is the battlefield. Everyone comes here to defeat the enemy, not to build relationships. Without the strength to fight, who will care about you? As Jia Yan walked along the way, many of the guard lords or stars he encountered on the road showed slight respect to him. Jia Yan was not aloof. After all, they were all comrades in the trenches. They were very close to each other, so he responded slightly. Of course, as the most powerful person in this position, he actually responded to them. The creatures were all surprised, and their favorable impression of Jia Yan suddenly increased. This is the influence of being a human being. For Jia Yan, he doesn't need to do too much. He only needs to be a little less cold to others, and he will win people's hearts, because he is the strong one. Jia Yan, are you back? Haha, I can see that I have gained a lot. When Jia Yan returned to the inside of the mist of the position, the middle-level galaxy comrade with whom Jia Yan had always been friends came to him. Haha, I feel okay. This central star field of the Milky Way is indeed a sacred place. One planet can produce so much, I feel envious of it. Jia Yan joked. Don't be envious. There are many enviable opportunities in the future. What do you think? Do you plan to win another match now? The other party has seen you leaving these past few days and came to challenge you again. Now that they know you are coming back soon, they have shrunk. Aren't you going to fight them? This one feels a little angry. He was also very unhappy. As soon as Jia Yan left, the enemy, who probably knew the information, immediately came to challenge him. They said they would give him 1 foot, and they would give him 1 foot. This made him almost forced to fight. Fortunately, this mid-level being from the galaxy was not an overly impulsive person. He always remembered that before Jia Yan went out, he said not to let him go into battle, but just remember those people, so he did not go out to fight and accepted the enemy's provocation. Now that Jia Yan is back, he wonders if he can cooperate with Jia Yan again and regain his own place. Of course, the more important thing is that he can also get good results. In the last battle, he was also rewarded. Even if he didn't win and it was a tie, it was still considered a contribution. So if he finds a better opponent this time and wins a game, he will get some rewards. This is not what anyone goes to the battlefield for. I still can't. I still have some thoughts about the last battle that I haven't fully digested, so unless the other party comes to visit me again, I won't be ready to fight for the time being. We'll talk about it later. Jia Yan shook his head. Have you gained any insights again? That mid-level comrade in the galaxy was simply confused. This Jia Yan said he had some insights just after the battle last time. This time he came back from the commercial star and he had some insights again. This guy has great talent. Of course, the mid-level beings in the galaxy are not bad at talent, let alone Jia Yan. After fighting once, he went to Shuyuan and has a lot of insights, but unlike Jia Yan, he has lived longer. He has thought about more things and fought more times, so the number of insights seems to be less. But in fact, if he really communicates with Jia Yan about his thoughts and ideas about battle, he will definitely have many more ideas than Jia Yan. But whether he can borrow them is another matter. Generally speaking, he is still the strong one. It would be better to realize it yourself. Jia Yan went to reflect. The battlefield, which had been noisy in the past few days, suddenly became quiet. The other party also saw Jia Yan's return. They knew that Jia Yan was back, and it was really hard to take action until they found a way to deal with Jia Yan, otherwise they would end up losing both his wife and his troops. Hey, this is Jia Yan, is there really nothing we can do about it? Who said there is no way? It's just that we can't take action. Our power is not the only enemy like this. There are even several surrounding star regions. After knowing that the Domain Lord was injured, they are all ready to take action, causing almost every place to be destroyed. Someone needs to be in charge, otherwise such a position will push him over in minutes.